All right, here, I'll turn off the music. So, there's another streamer that I like to think I'm friends with named HanzOfHarkir, and at least my opinion of him for as long as I've known him, has always been pretty positive. I think he's generally been a pretty nice guy. I can definitely respect his workout gains that he posts on Twitter, and I think at least if you'd asked me like a few months ago, I'd say he's probably the most well-liked. I would have said he was the most well-liked political Twitch streamer. I would have absolutely said that like 2 or 3 months ago. But more recently, he started to, well, a lot of people that have had problems with his behavior lately have argued that he's changed and that he's gotten angrier and meaner and more aggro. And honestly, I agree. I do agree with that. I actually do agree that he has gotten quite a bit meaner and quite a bit more aggro. And recently he did a debate with somebody that I know named Leftist Owl on the topic of neopronouns and xenogenders. And to be fair, I don't think Leftist Owl did, an amazing job in debating. But, debating is a skill. Not everybody's good at it. And I ended up responding to that debate, like reviewing it on stream. And then Cherry obviously uploaded that as its own video. And Hans wanted to talk to me about it. So Hans messaged me on Twitter today a few times to talk about it because the video just went up today. Hey, Merrick. Now, here's the thing. As you guys might know, all of today, I have been, since 8 a.m. this morning when I forced myself to wake up with my alarm, very much against my own will, I promise. I have been taking part in a Hightail community charity stream where we raised, at least in the time that I was on the stream, which is about 6 or 7 hours, we were able to raise $15,000.29 for a charity that is working to build 3D printed affordable housing for people that are impoverished and in need all around the world. It's a very good cause. Every $10,000 donated equals a complete, like an entire house that a family could live in. And we raised $15,000 in the time that I was there. So we raised a house and a half. Okay, that's that's a mean feat, I'd say. But of course, I was busy doing this charity stream all day, and Hans, I guess during that time, was messaging me on Twitter, and I would say that he got a little bit unhinged and maybe a little bit on the rude side. And I decided that because there was nothing of private importance, like nothing would be doxed, nothing like no private information was in it, I decided to screenshot it and post it in the Shoe on Head Simps secret group chat in Twitter. And then Dreamleaf posted a screenshot of my screenshot posted in the VC or in the GC, and Hans got upset about me leaking that DM. And this is what he ended up posting. And let's just say it's a little bit weird. So let's go ahead and look. These are the messages that he sent me. So these messages that he sent me were while I was doing the charity stream. I woke up at 8 a.m. and immediately was in that call doing the charity stream. And I didn't stop doing the charity stream until 4. So I have been very, very busy all day. Anyway, he says, saw your coverage of the debate, want to chat today. Also, to be clear, I was rude to Leftist Owl because he's been harassing me for months despite me blocking him since the Prime drama. I assume this has to do with Leftist Owl being the person that Hans debated. I don't know the background behind their drama. I don't even know Leftist Owl all that well. I think the most I've talked to Leftist Owl was literally yesterday while playing that Gartic telephone game. And then Hans messaged me again a few minutes later saying, even before the Xeno Discourse, he's an annoying fuck who literally bothered friends of mine for just having brunch with me. I don't know the story behind that, and frankly, it's just not something that concerns me. And then a little bit later, he said, also, since Vosh won't talk to me about it, I would also love to chat about Vosh calling me a reactionary. I don't know why he'd want to talk to me about that. I'm not Vosh. I don't control what Vosh says. Like, I don't know why he'd talk to me about that, because why? Like, why? Why would I talk about that? Figured since you're his #1 orbiter, you'd be up for that. Also, happy to chat about how I'm a huge Destiny orbiter, so you ran to Daddy V instead of getting back to me, so I assume we're not chatting. And so these were messages sent over the course of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's 5 hours just about. Yeah. 4 hours, sorry, yeah. And I didn't respond. Like, it didn't even say they were read or anything. I was doing a charity stream. I didn't have time to respond to them. And so I decided to screenshot it and posted it because I thought it was funny. And I said I literally just wasn't on Twitter because I was doing a charity stream. And then Hanz then posts a link to a Vosh Discord message from 2:36 p.m. I'm presuming his time. When would 2:36 have been for him? I'm curious, actually. So for me, because this is my screenshot of his messages. So 8:59, it would be 3 hours later, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it would have been 11 for him when he first asked me this question. And then at noon, so he would have messaged him this for him so he would have said this at noon. So he would have had this interaction with Vosh at noon or like 11. So like an hour after he messaged me this in his time zone, because he's EST, I'm PST. So like an hour after he sent me this message, I guess he talked to Vosh and decided that, as he claims in this tweet, Xanderhal thinks leaking DMs is fun and makes him look good. He didn't respond for hours, but found time to run to Vosh and ask permission to talk about him slandering me. Got the timestamps here to prove it. Imagine calling me a Destiny Orbiter, but you gotta ask Vosh to talk. Now, you may be curious, why is there no evidence here of me asking Vosh to talk if I can talk to Hanz? And that is because this is pure fan fiction. I'm sorry, there's just no other way to put it. Like, this is... I assume Vosh and Hanz had an argument in Discord, and Hanz assumed that that argument happening at that time means I must have talked to Vosh. And I assure you, until this whole interaction happened, the only people I've been talking to today have been hightail YouTubers, okay? Because I've been doing a charity stream all day. I have not had time for this weird internet drama stuff. It's just not where my mind has been today. So, yeah, basically, that's the lead up to this debate, I guess. Hopefully that preamble doesn't, poison the well a little bit, because I would argue that, like, objectively speaking, those messages don't exactly make Hanz look very good. Oh, I also have to read off the rest of the messages as well, because there were some pretty mean-spirited things that he said, so we'll read through them really quick. Xan said he was busy doing a charity stream, but he found time to run to Daddy to tell him I asked to speak about him. This did not happen. Figured it was fair since Vosh is a huge coward and is sending his dunce of an orbiter in his place. We're in different time zones, but Xan found the time to tell Vosh, and Vosh found the time to DM me before Xan got back to me. Here are the stamps on my end to show times. Happy to read more DMs if necessary. I don't know why he thinks that any of this is like... I don't know why he thinks this is like evidence that I talked to Vosh, but I promise you I care way more about Hightail than I care about this internet drama, okay? I need you... Guys, you all know me, right? Do you guys genuinely think that me, Xanderhal, was taking time from a Hightail charity stream where I get to talk to the developers of the game that I've been waiting for and have been obsessed with nonstop to an almost unhealthy degree since 2018? Do you think I would have taken time from that experience to, like, engage in weird internet drama behind the scenes with Vosh? Do you think the conversations me and Vosh have are about other people like that we don't like in the like? I don't think I've ever even gossiped with Vosh about anybody that we mutually dislike. Like, I don't even think that's ever once happened in our conversations we've had. This is not a thing that occurs. I feel like so many people just invent fan fiction about me and Vosh, but hopefully in an actual conversation, Hanz will be like way more reasonable. I know it's like it's Twitter, so there's a lot of performativity to it, but hopefully in an actual combo, it'll be a lot more nuanced, but we'll have to see how it goes. I told him that he can call whenever he's ready.
Right. Can you hear me?
Now it should work?
Let me see.
Oh, there I am.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Look at that.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me put you in the
Welcome
in
to
the
capitalism,
corner
dude.
so everyone can see your beautiful
Pose
face. I love the hair,
Zero
by the
Head
way. Like, unironically, it looks
has
good.
donated asterisk
We're both
$10.
blonde.
It's like
We're both blonde.
but
We're
we're
both in
not the
blonde
same.
game.
Okay, this is all natural. Like, all right. So I watched your review, and I have some like notes that we can maybe like work through like one at a time.
Sure.
Yeah. So the first one that I just want to kind of quash is my treatment of leftist Al, right? I completely agree with you. I was extremely rude. If you allow me to provide some background, leftist Al and I absolutely hate each other. We used to be good friends, but we had a massive falling out over the Prime Cat stuff, and he has constantly been like a thorn in my side, bothering me ever since. I want nothing to do with him. He constantly is like, well, like tweeting at me, harassing me, harassing friends of mine, like Cherry. Cherry, you know, you're Cherry streamer, right? She
the CHAIRY.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Cherry. So she was doing a road trip and she stopped for brunch with me and she like posted a picture of us and he found it. Was like, I know Hans is an asshole. It's like, dude, like, it's one thing if you're fucking with me, but you're also like bothering my friends. If you want to hear the like this, like my opinion, this guy and this guy's opinion of me, then like the day I got sexually assaulted and everyone was like, you know, giving me their like, you know, like, oh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. His tweet was, I fucking hate Hans. That's still a terrible thing to happen to him. Like, dude, just shut the fuck up. If you want to like talk about like feeling bad for something like happened to me, so like, I'm sorry. I was really mean to him. I could have been as mean as I fucking wanted and think it would have been justified. All right. So like, I just like, I know that might be a criticism that I went too hard on him. I don't give a single fuck about that. I think he's a worthless sack of shit. So, and I treated him as such. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I wasn't aware if there was any like prior dramas, because from my perspective of that debate, the VOD that went up, I was just assuming that leftist Al was somebody who disagreed with your take in chat and you brought on to debate.
No.
So it just came off to me as like that was out of nowhere, and that seemed unreasonable to me.
Okay. Yeah. I would agree with you if there wasn't that context, but hopefully I provided that.
Okay, what was the next thing that you wrote down?
The next one is, I think maybe it was my fault in terms of what I said, but I thought it was pretty clear during the debate. I think I said multiple times that you don't need dysphoria to be trans. So I'm just like clarifying, I'm not trans med. You don't need dysphoria to be trans. So I thought you maybe you like heard something, like I said something sound like that at the beginning, and you just kind of ran with that for the rest of the debate. But I just want you to know, I'm not trans med. I don't think you need dysphoria to be trans.
That seemed confusing to me, because during the debate, leftist Owl, I think, was making the argument that dysphoria and gender and being trans, or dysphoria and your identity, your gender identity, don't necessarily need to be connected, I think was the argument that leftist Owl was making. If you remember, then you can correct me.
You said just that dysphoria gender
doesn't necessarily like relate to your gender. Or I think what you were arguing was that leftist Owl's logic could lead to the position that that gender is just a choice, so someone could just choose not to have dysphoria,
right?
Because they could just choose to be happy with the gender they were assigned at birth, right?
Yes.
And that came off to me not necessarily as true scummy, but I was somewhat confused, and my mind immediately jumped to, is he trying to make like a true scummy argument?
Okay.
It just kind of confused me.
So when I say something, when I say like being trans isn't a choice, I would say that every person has preferences, whether it's to be a man, be a woman, not be non-binary. You have some set of preferences that you want to act out, and I don't think you can really consciously change those. And so when I say being trans isn't a choice, I'm saying you can't just choose to like have a different gender. So when I say like, oh, hey, if you have what I was making the argument to Al, because what I assumed from what Al was saying was, oh, if you can just choose to like be a different gender at any point in time, I would just say, hey, like just choose your gender to align with dysphoria, and then dysphoria gone.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and if he's clarified since then, again, I haven't talked to leftist Al. I don't ever want to talk to leftist Al for like as long as I fucking live. But if he clarifies that, oh, hey, that's not what he meant, and he also like has a similar opinion in regards to like say like the preferences thing, and then sure. But when I say like choose to be trans, I don't mean say like choose to come out. I mean you choose your preference. I think all of us have some sort of preference, including say non-binary people who don't have a strong pull towards either like say like either gender. Their unconscious preferences still push them to say like be non-binary, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if you watched my review of the debate, then you probably heard me say this, and I'm curious what your thoughts were on it. I think that the word gender dysphoria is a little bit misleading in terms of what it is, because when we use the term gender dysphoria, you would imagine gender dysphoria means you are uncomfortable with the gender you're assigned at birth, and that while that is true, generally a lot of trans people who experience dysphoria end up wanting to do something to change a lot of their physical features. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. And I think there's an argument to be made that dysphoria, maybe there's multiple types of dysphoria. Some people might experience
types,
it when in regards to just their social
it's not just
identity.
It's like
and
it's not
their
just gender
physical body.
dysphoria, right? You can have body dysphoria. Like
Yeah.
Or say, like, yeah, like I have a lot of like say friends who are bodybuilders, and they might feel like body dysmorphia, or like where they don't feel like their body is like the right way, or they feel like they're like too big or too small, or like they like like there's lots of different things where you don't feel comfortable like in the body that you have, and it doesn't necessarily have to be related to gender. So I can understand that if we're talking about the different types of gender dysphoria, maybe I'm just not read into that. I've like always been of the assumption that even if there's like a spectrum of like how you feel about like gender dysphoria, like it might manifest in different ways, it still is fundamentally about you feeling as if you're not like presenting, or you're not the gender that you actually are, right? You know, in the case of say like a trans man, he feels that for whatever reason his characteristics or something like that isn't matching his gender. And so we want to say that if you want to say that's because we have something like internal that things like say sex and gender, or like sexual characteristics and gender are like somewhat connected, not like mapped up one to one, but like connected, then maybe that makes sense in regards to like the gender dysphoria thing. But that's kind of where I would go with that. If you say like some people might like experience it more aggressively versus less aggressively, some might say, oh hey, it's because like I have a dick when I shouldn't. I feel like I shouldn't have a dick, or maybe they just like say, oh hey, like maybe I don't like feel feminine enough, right? Or like look feminine enough, and like that can, or like look masculine enough, right? I'm sure like both those things would technically constitute as dysphoria. And then also I think I already said this before, but again, not transmed, and I'm sure there's people who still very much prefer to be a different gender, right? You know, whether it's like like trans woman, trans man, and that's different than they don't necessarily have dysphoria, even if like say it makes them uncomfortable if they're like say being misgendered or right? I don't think it would be prudent to say that just trans people who don't experience dysphoria don't experience like some flavor of oppression, right? I think that's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I'd argue anybody who, you know, kind of steps outside of the norm in that respect is probably going to get some form of oppression. Yeah, so I guess, do you want to talk about, like, what really, I guess, spawned the entire drama about the xenogender stuff, xenogender and neopronouns? So I guess I'm not so much concerned in debating about whether or not these things are valid, because I don't really think either of our opinions in the grand scheme of things really are going to matter all that much to the whole idea of whether or not society accepts these pronouns or accepts these genders or doesn't. But what I'm more so curious about, and the thing that just kind of stood out to me and I guess just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, was the way that you accused people who validate the identities of people who identify with xenogenders or people who use neopronouns. You said that people who validate that are using transphobic logic, or logic that, whether they realize it or not, is invalidating
yes,
I guess real trans people.
And I can explain the explicit line of logic for that, right? So
all right.
You've heard of Blanchardism, right? Where the concept that say trans women aren't actually women, they're just men who fetishize women, right? They identify with and fetishize women. And so why I called leftist Al a leftist or woke Blanchardite is because when he says, oh, you can just choose. And also the idea that in the case of the xenogenders, you identify with something, but you are not that thing, right? So if I'm applying that kind of logic to regular trans people, and when I say that, I just mean like binary trans people, right? In this specific case, not referring to the xenogender stuff. When someone says, oh, they just identify with X, but they're not X, in the case of, say, being like not a helicopter, even if you identify with heligender, right? When I heard that, I was like, okay, this feels like, again, woke Blanchardism, where you're saying, if I apply that logic to regular, like say a regular trans woman, so is she just a man who's identifying with womanhood but isn't actually a woman? Because this is like the big question that I am struggling with in regards to, again, I promise I'm not I'm not like accepting xenogenders just to be a dick. I have a legitimate like query where I'm kind of like, all right, I feel like these are two different things, and I want to get to your like little chart that you made at the end. I thought that was actually pretty fascinating. I think I agree with most of it. But the idea for that is I can't square the circle where you have two people and they're both like trans, but one of them isn't actually the thing they're identifying with, and the other one is, right? Mm-hmm. We don't say that a trans woman is just a man who identifies with womanhood. A trans woman is a woman, right? In regards to hopefully we don't have to normatively like deduce that, right? But even xenogender people will tell you, oh, I identify with heligender, but I'm not a helicopter. So my question then is, right, is how are these two things the same? I had this conversation with Dario. I think someone who agrees with your position. He's pretty good faith. And we essentially worked out to, if we just say that you feel like you're a different gender, then I would concede that xenogenders are technically genders, but I would still say that they're not valid in the same way that that regular, quote unquote, regular genders are. And I think, and part of why I guess like I was so frustrated with Vosh and stuff is I can show you like videos from both November 28th and September 19th where he says essentially just that. And so I find, and that's part of why I came out so hard against him, is I feel like he was giving a pretty similar take to mine. And again, I'm not trying to like stir the pot so much as like defend myself. I literally, this is like Scout honor stuff. During the gender panel where he was on, there were some people on there that were actively trying to portray him as like transphobic because he, at that point in time, he was not in favor of like neo-pronouns. And I literally remember playing defense as the mod and trying to like navigate that conversation so I don't cancel Vosh. Because back at that point, we were still tight. He was still like, my hero. He was still the one who inspired me to stream. I didn't want to get a guy fucking canceled just because he was on my stream and he wasn't down for neo-pronouns, right? So that's why, so when I say that I know that Vosh's position at the very least has either changed or he just doesn't want to say it, I explicitly know that because I remember playing defense for him as a moderator, like to the point where where I was a biased mod, and I've watched both those streams where he does like 20-minute diatribes for both of those things, and I can tell you that with the exception of the second VOD of November 28th, where he says, "Oh hey, I think xenogenders are destructive for trans people. I'll respect them anyway because I don't think they're that big of a deal." I would say, as a content creator, if I think something's destructive, I would probably do my best not to reaffirm it. And he gave religion as an example, and I would say even that, that's a worst example you could probably give in regards to religion. Saying if someone has a dangerous religion, and they're asking me to reaffirm it, I wouldn't do that. I might maybe I won't scream at them every day, God's not real, God's not real, God's not real. But I'm not going to say your God is real or your God is valid, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only real distinction I would have with Foster's position. And I would argue, prescriptively, I think my position is more consistent and better because I'm actively fighting against the thing that I think is harmful or dangerous to trans people. And he's kind of just dealing with it because he doesn't personally think it's that big of a deal.
But how does it hurt trans people?
In the same, again, I can't point you to a specific study, right? And I can, or a news story, and I can concede.
I just mean theoretically, I guess.
Yeah, theoretically. Well, it's the thing where I talked about where it opens up to like woke Blanchardism, where if we say, oh, hey, they're trans in the same way that trans men and trans women are trans, then we're essentially opening the door for people to easily deduce. I would say this is not like a reach if we accept both of them as equally trans. Would be that they're trans women and trans men. In the case of let's just use trans men so I don't trip over my words. Trans men aren't actually men; they're just women who identify and fetishize the idea of a man. I don't think that's a super big leap, given the explicit philosophy of xenogenders is that you identify with something, but you are explicitly not that thing. If that makes sense.
Well, so I guess the issue, or I guess the thing that stands out to me most is, so you believe that what validates, or what makes, say, a trans woman valid, or makes a trans man valid, is that men and women are things that you can be. Like a human being can be a man, a human being can be a woman. And you would argue a human being cannot be a deer, right?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable making that statement, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess what confuses me is, if we throw non-binary people into the mix, by that standard, what makes them valid? Because non-binary isn't a thing that we can derive from sex. I mean, sex isn't even a binary in and of itself. Right. It's more of a bimodal distribution. But nonetheless, non-binary doesn't refer to intersex people, or it refers to people who aren't part of the gender binary. So Is gender a tri thing, or is non-binary? Do you believe it to be an umbrella for other identities outside of the binary?
Yeah, you could say that in this case, non-binary is an umbrella catch-all for all the people who don't fit on like the binary like gender spectrum. And what I would say to that, in regards to identity, I think Vosh, and I think you touched on this in your little in your diagram at the end, where there's a lot of identity that isn't explicitly related to gender, right?
Sure.
And so for me, in the same way that there's a lot of ways to express yourself as a man, I'm sure there's a lot of ways to express yourself, just as like the umbrella non-binary, and have the other aspects of your personality just not be directly tied into your gender. Because again, and I think Vosh says this pretty well in his November 28th clip, where he essentially says there is no line that isn't arbitrary to draw. And I remember this because I had people in my chat arguing that, say, fairy gender was valid, but helicopter gender wasn't valid. And I was like, how the fuck do you say that fairy gender is valid, but helicopter gender is valid? And if there's no line, then that means we do have to bite the bullet and say that we're okay with the existence of, say, Nazi gender, which I'm just not comfortable with. And I feel like because I don't have a good arbitrary line to cut it off at, and no one has presented me with a good one, I kind of have to dismiss all of it wholesale, if that makes sense.
I'd be willing. I'm going to go ahead and take a guess. I imagine a lot of the people who got upset about the helicopter gender thing and said that's not valid, but say, for example, fairy gender would be, even though logically speaking, if you were to justify, I imagine many of the people who say that helicopter gender isn't valid, had they met somebody they believed was sincerely identifying that way, they would respect said pronouns and identity. I think that was more so a visceral emotional reaction from many people in the trans community upon hearing you invoke a very common and very infamous transphobic saying as a way of, I guess, arguing against the concept of neogenders and neopronouns.
I understand the initial thing, but I would say that is too much of a reach, and I would not accept that classification. Up until this point, I don't think I've ever said anything that could even be hinted as it being transphobic. I had ever really made any strong claims about xenogenders or pronouns. So I feel like when I made that, I only used that because I was told that if that was valid, then it would be valid, and I used it because it's the most well-known example, right? Everyone knows the idea of identifying it as a helicopter, and so it was very frustrating to me in that initial thing, and was because I had half the people were saying, Hans, you're a transphobic piece of shit for invoking this, and then I had the other half of people being like, hella gender's super fucking valid, bro, and I'm like, oh, how could if it's valid, then it's not a problem for me to invoke it. And if it isn't valid and I'm invoking it, then yeah, that's transphobic, but it's supposed to be valid. And I was just using it, again, Twitter. I'm trying to get more people to click on the thing so I can see the poll. And I thought that poll was pretty interesting in regards to what it meant, oh, hey, is this still bigoted? Or is it, is there a difference between, say, not gendering someone who's a xenogender correctly versus, say, not gendering a trans woman correctly, right? I think that was an interesting question. I think a lot of people, I would say, gave pretty normal responses. Where I think Vosh did this too, where it's where being anti or not gendering, or not agreeing with someone's xenogender might be a dickish move, but you're not transphobic. And I have explicit clips where he's saying oh, hey, if you're gamer gender and someone says that you're not actually a true gamer, that's not them being transphobic. And so if we're doing the thing where we just put every aspect of identity as gender, that's fine, but then we've essentially lost the meaningfulness of either of those terms. They're just become synonyms now. It's oh, my identity and my gender just encompass everything, right? Part of my gender is that I'm a gamer. Part of my gender is that I'm a powerlifter, right? Part of my gender is that I'm blonde, right? There's plenty of things that I would say are outside of my gender, and maybe I'm just stupid, right? Where I can't really qualify or quantify the part of gender, which again, I don't think, hopefully people don't call me trans med, right? This is from the World Health Organization, where they say gender refers to the characteristics of women, men, boys, and girls that are socially constructed. And so I can see how.
Wait, but by that definition, when because what I'm curious about is, and I want to get to the Vosh thing in a minute, because I know that's obviously part of what we have to talk about.
Yeah.
What I asked this before, but I want to see if I could. I guess I don't know if you heard me or whatever, but by this standard, I want to know, what do you think validates non-binary people? If xenogenders and people who use neopronouns aren't valid, what are we deriving that validates the existence of non-binary people's identity? And
so I would say it fits pretty neatly into the concept of preferences, right? Both cis people, like I say, I'm a cis man. My preference is man, right? And that's my underlying preference. It's unconscious. I don't wake up every day and choose to be a man. The combination of like unconscious preferences and stuff pushes me to be a man. In the same way, I would say for a non-binary person, their internal preferences aren't pushing them towards, say, the existing binaries like spectrum, or sorry, like the bimodal spectrum, right? Where it's like you have like more feminine men, more masculine women, They don't feel like they fit in that spectrum, and so it's just a catch-all term for the people whose preferences do not exist on that spectrum. And I think it fits like calmly inside that, right? If we had, say, if the spectrum, right, was say like an oval, right? Then the non-binary could maybe either just be like a separate circle or another circle around it, like, oh, you don't fit inside of it. And again, like quoting V here for a second, right? I'm gonna do this a lot because I've just studied his takes in particular to make sure I got my ducks in the row for this, where he says, oh, as a gender abolitionist, which I can fuck with, right? I don't want to make a million genders. My goal, right, if I'm talking about like where I want like gender to look, I just want more people to be as comfortable as possible, expressing themselves, regardless. Like, like have them like expand the expression for men, expand the expression for women, expand the expression for non-binary, right? And saying that, oh, like these are my characteristics. And I think non-binary as a classification fits that. And I think that's why non-binary people can be valid. But it doesn't mean that a non-binary person inherently has to have a xenogender. So if that makes sense, why I'm okay with non-binary, but I'm not okay with xenogender, if that helps.
Aren't people who use xenogenders kind of non-binary though?
They are non-binary, but they are non-binary by default. But not all non-binary people have xenogenders, if that makes sense, right?
So what's the difference between someone who goes by they/them pronouns and says they're non-binary and someone who goes by like its pronouns and it identifies with like an animal or an inanimate object or something? Like what validates?
I got you. In regards to the pronouns, I've actually come around to the concept of like it just being like a nickname, and I'm more fine with neopronouns, with the explicit exception is that I'm not okay with them when they're validating xenogenders. So if you say like, oh hey, I'm Zer and I'm non-binary. And again, like the reasoning for why I don't like xenogenders, I've already explained, but I can do it again. But the idea is, I'm fine with neopronouns. It's just a nickname, right? If someone asks me to call them something, I'm gonna try and call them that thing, right? But if I explicitly know that it's validating something that I think and Vosh agrees is like destructive to trans people,
wait. You keep bringing up Vosh. I don't know why you keep bringing him up. I feel like
I'm hoping he'll talk to me about this because again, I think it's extremely disingenuous to have a talk about me and slander me, and then when I ask to have a conversation, he agrees, and then when I tell him what I want to talk about, which is him slandering me, he runs away, and then the next day still posts the initial video slandering me. I think that's absolutely cowardly. And I'm hoping by getting enough eyeballs on this that I just bait him to actually having a conversation, because I think this is absolutely fucking cowardly. And again, you seem like a nice dude, but like I'm not looking for the scion of VGG. I want to talk to V about this because this is really fucking rude. So like, and I can respect your criticisms, but like his criticisms, I don't think that's fucking fair. And I got the receipts on his positions.
Well, I'm not very familiar with the drama between you and Vosh because I haven't very much followed it at all. I've been pretty busy lately. But
that's
I mean,
fine.
On Twitter
if you really want, we don't have to talk about this. But I would like to explicitly say.
But
that,
on
like,
Twitter and
Vosh.
DMs and stuff, you were saying that like Vosh is my daddy, and I had to ask him for permission to debate you and stuff. And I was just doing a charity stream all day.
Here's what I assumed, right? So tell me if I'm wrong. And
I was raising money for a charity.
No.
3D printing houses for people.
So I said this yesterday, right? So a conversation between Vosh and I started at 8, right? Yesterday. And I said, dude, I'll be real. You call me reactionary was bullshit and cringe, and you posting the VOD after refusing to talk to me was also shitty and dishonest. And then I'm like, all right, like you fine. We have a conversation. He's saying he doesn't want to engage with me on this at all, which I think is extremely cowardly. And then there's like this moment, right, where we're still talking, and I message you, right, and I haven't brought you up at all, like in the conversation with V. And so I message you. I'm like, hey, you want to have a conversation about this? And you don't get back to me, assume because you're a charity stream. And then Vosh brings you up and says, Zan wants to talk to you about this. And I'm like, oh, all right, looks like Zan like went to Vosh and told him about this. And if that didn't happen, like again, like I guess I'll trust you on this. And I jumped the gun on that one. But it seemed like from the contextual clues of that, like, oh, hey, I'm talking to Vosh about this. Never brought up Zan. I messaged you. And then like 2.5 hours later, Vosh just randomly says something about you. And I was like, all right, I think Zan talked to Vosh about me. And like, which is fine, right? You know, y'all are friends. But then it felt weird when you said like, oh, I haven't talked to him all day. And I was like, that just didn't feel right. So like, if you can clear that up for me, that'd be awesome.
I hadn't talked to him at all. Probably not since I was in his like last stream chat. Maybe like 2 days ago. I've been way too busy. Today I woke up at 8 a.m. and I was straight on my computer and in the voice chat for this Hightail Thank Miss Charity stream.
Did you raise,
listen, we raised $15,000
nice!
Plus. I had to dip out at 4 p.m. my time, which is 4, 5, 6, 7 p.m. for you, I assume, if you're an EST. And so I ended up starting at 8 a.m. and we did the charity stream all day. And I ended up stopping at 4, and we managed to get to 15,000. But I think more might have gotten raised. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the game Hightail, but
no, but tell me about
it. Imagine if you know how Mario kind of invented, or you know how Metal Gear Solid kind of invented the like stealth genre.
Yeah.
Imagine Minecraft basically invented the genre that Minecraft is, and Hightail wants to be the next game that comes along to revolutionize that entire genre.
So it's like
and
stealth
it's still
and Minecraft, or like
no. Like it's doing what like I'm making a comparison to like how Metal Gear Solid sort of revolutionized stealth.
It's genre defining, so like nothing else has come before.
Yeah,
is there anything like that
Minecraft defined its genre, and Hightail wants to basically become the next step in the genre. So yeah, highly recommend the game. Anyway, so I was doing a charity stream, and I've been obsessed with this game since 2018. And if you ever watch my videos, my chat right now, they're all saying, here we go again, because I'm talking about Hightail again. I promise you I wasn't taking any time away from like this charity stream where we were having like devs and stuff pop up, and we were having some of the devs of the game come in and stuff. I was way too preoccupied with that because I was getting to meet the devs and stuff. It was super dope to talk about any drama or be on Twitter, so that's why I hadn't responded. And it just came to me when you messaged me all this stuff, it seemed like you felt like my not responding to you in a timely manner was as though it felt like you'd immediately assumed I was acting in like maliciously, and it felt like you had been and it felt like you were sitting on it when you immediately jumped to like the Vosh's lapdog type shit. It's like people, for as long as I've been doing this whole streaming thing, it feels like at least the last 2 years or something, I feel like the internet has written so much fan fiction about me and Vosh that is just so far from reality. It's absurd, and I feel like everyone has started to believe it now. And it felt like you prior to today, like you jumped onto it because you decided you didn't like me anymore, and it felt like you'd been sitting on that the whole time.
The reason why I did it, partially why I thought it was fair game, is because another thing I wanted to have a conversation with you about was you said that you were nervous for me about why I'm like so aggressive and like why I've been doing this, and you're nervous like I'm doing this just like to get in the good graces of Destiny and DGG. I want to clear up a couple things like pretty quick, right? So yes, I interact in the Destiny subreddit mostly because it's the biggest subreddit where I can plug my shit, right? Got that Sigma grind set. Whenever I make a YouTube video, I fucking pay my editor good money for that shit. I want to get as much fucking eyeballs as possible. So, I'm going to post it on my Twitter. I'm going to post it in every Discord that allows me to post it. I'm going to post it in every subreddit that won't fucking ban me for posting my shit, right? And DGG is a subreddit where I get most of my engagement, like in regards to that sort of thing, right? So that's where that comes from. In terms of actually talking to Destiny, I think I've talked to him 5 times. Like once during the initial Prime drama where he was debating against me, and then once there was like I think it was a debate about like it was like the gal in the bar, and like she was having like that panic attack because she saw like a dude like triggered an episode, and I debated him on that. And so 2 adversarial debates, and then I think we did like 2 different panels together, and those are like all my on-stream interactions with him. I would say my behind-the-scenes interactions with him have been really positive. Like he's normally pretty chill in DMs. He gets back to me like relatively quickly. We know like sometimes like I'll send like videos or tweets of me like doing my lifts because like he's been getting into lifting, and we had like a pretty cool conversation about lifting on stream once. That was like the right after our initial debate about the bar victim chick, and so I talked to him about that sometimes. But I guess like why I was comfortable calling you like a Vosh orbiter. It was like if people are gonna like slander me, it's like doing everything I do for DGG and all this sort of stuff. Like, I'm ready to put it all on the table. Like, all my fucking interactions with D are like, 5. And then like we have a little bit of like DMs. Like, I think the last time I DM'd him was just for the full disclosure stuff, right? Let me see. The last time I DM'd him was I sent him. This was on the 6th. I sent him a picture of me getting my squat PR. I had 4 of 5, which is 4 plates for 3. So that was a big fucking deal for me. And then before that, the last time I DM'd him was on the 28th. And so I maybe would send him a message like once every like probably 5 to 6 days. So
sure.
I just feel like it's disingenuous that a lot of people, and maybe you're in this category and maybe you're not. If you want to correct this now, that's fine. But I have seen some stuff about you calling me like an orbiter, and I was like, if he's can call me an orbiter, I feel like you got a lot more history with Vosh than I got with Destiny. If that makes sense. I thought that was fair.
But I think how long have you been doing how long have you been watching the lefty streaming space?
I watched Vosh was my favorite streamer of 2020. Again, he's like my inspiration for streaming. I think I watched every single one of his VODs, or not VODs, videos that he posted to his YouTube channel in the year of our Lord 2020. That was like banger fucking content. I would I would go to the gym, I would go to my job at school, then I'd go to school, and I'd come back. I would watch that, make dinner, do homework, go to sleep. I would watch Vosh every single day. I started watching Destiny probably about towards the last quarter of 2020. So not last quarter of 2020. Beginning of 2020. Wait, fuck. No, okay, so I watched Vosh in 2019 onward, and then I saw a lot of Destiny stuff in, I think, the middle of 2020. But I never watched him as much. Vosh was always like my main thing. And then I started doing content creation. I originally started as a book review channel. I'm a big reader. I know I look like a big dumb guy, but actually I'm pretty well read. And I would do like a nonfiction book review every week. And I did that, but then I found there was just a lot of time, and I had recently graduated and started doing my new office job, and I was trying really hard to get promoted and stuff. So I was really grinding. I just didn't have enough time to devote to making a video every week, right? So that would take like 30 hours of work because I had to read the book, I write the script, shoot the video, do the editing, upload it. So it's just a lot of fucking time. And so I started getting into streaming instead, and I just found that I liked it a lot more. So I started doing streaming, started getting on Prime panels, I started doing my I think my first panel was the King of Pride Discourse. That was back in April or some shit. So I've kind of been around, but I haven't really watched a lot of streamers, if you know what I mean. I knew you existed because I saw you I think you got recommended to me after a Vosh thing. I didn't sub that was nothing. That was nothing against you. I literally did not have time. I in college I was so fucking busy that I had to start watching YouTube videos at 3 times speed just to watch all the content that I was watching. And so yeah. Now I'm still pretty busy, but in terms of on the online space, I was pretty friendly with everybody. I mean, you probably noticed this. I was a pretty cheery kind of guy, right? I was things going good, and that's my default personality. But I'll be honest, the last couple months have really been breaking me down, dude. I've seen a lot of shit from people who I thought were my friends. I thought there was some unfairness. And some things really made me mad. I didn't I joke about it now, but in the beginning, it legitimately did hurt my feelings. That a lot of people were accusing me of being on drugs, accusing me of being on roids, all that sort of stuff, accusing me of having mental illness.
People do that on the internet a lot.
I know, but it was specifically from certain communities, and I was like, all right, this is fucked up. I don't really like this. And also, this was right around the Demon Mama debate, right? I barely ever talked with Destiny. I wasn't the biggest fan of him or anything. We'd only actually had our 2 debates, right? There wasn't any big nice stuff happening between us. But he reviewed my Demon Mama debate, and he reviewed it pretty he gave me pretty decent reviews, right? Not glowing, but he said I did a pretty good job. And then he went to the mat with Booksmarts over saying that I did a good job. And then I think from that, a lot of people, Vosh included, started saying, oh, Hanz is getting in good with DGG. And then I also contributed to this because I remember posting a video about living your values as a lefty. Because I'm actually really big into living your values, right? If you have money and power as a lefty, I think you should really be using that, right? One of my biggest things that I'm happy to have been wrong about is when Hassan donated that hundreds of thousands of dollars to the labor ship, with his line. Dude, that was fucking awesome. I walked back that shit so fast. I was like, fuck yeah, this is enough for me. All right, I'll get you next year, dude. But right now, that's fucking boss as shit. I love that stuff. And so I remember posting it to VGG and EGG, and I got a lot more traction in VGG. So I made a meme. I'm like, man, one of these subreddits cares about living your values, the other one doesn't. VGG didn't take that too kindly, so I poked the bull a little bit. And then during the initial Demon Mama conversation, people said that I was rude afterwards, right?
Well, it's all right. It's just been a while. It started.
Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to monologue at you. Like I got like
yeah,
you asked for like the arc, and I'm like I didn't know what you wanted to hear.
I didn't know there was that much to it.
Oh, yeah,
I guess
I got the whole thing. Like
I guess like the only reason I was like, I'm gonna be honest. Like my biggest concern when it comes to the entire xenogenders and neopronouns debate is that every time I see discourse of this sort, discourse that's meant to discuss whether or not a certain group is valid, it almost always historically has led to really weird places, right? Where at a certain point, it almost seems like the idea that insert group isn't valid or insert group has gone too far or insert group is crazy is like the undoubtable decision, like the undoubtable position to have, right? Like back in 2015, 2014, 2016, if you were like a public figure who thought non-binary people were valid, you were just the biggest SJW on YouTube. You would be roasted by the entire internet. Nobody believed non-binary people were valid back then. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, same would go for transgender people. Hell, the whole Stonewall movement was all about like gay and lesbian liberation, but it was started by trans people, and they sort of like excised them out because they saw like, well, people who we can't. Well, okay, the trans people are going to make us gays look bad, and so they kind of excised them from their civil rights movement. And then the trans movement came, and it feels like they started to excise non-binary people from their movement because they felt like that was too hard for normies to swallow. And now it seems like normies have finally swallowed the non-binary pill, generally in online spaces that are marginally left-wing. And now it feels like now we're on with like the xenogenders
There's a lot of
thing,
guys I'm still working on getting them to like do regular. Like it was unironically the funniest thing.
Sure.
I was. Right after I had like the Xeno debate with Al, like the next day, I went out with some guys, and or that weekend, it was like a couple days afterwards, and I like had to go to the mat. Like I was like, guys, trans people valid, because they were like two Southern boys, but, like we were all working at the same office, and so it's like I know what you mean. Not everyone's there yet, but I understand like your idea, like historically, right?
The problem is though, because that worries me, because it's like this pattern that is repeated throughout history, where it's like, okay, well this group is valid now, but this other group that's like way too far, we can't let them be around. They make us look too bad. That feels like it's been a repeated practice over time. And hell, I'd argue that in 2014, if you gave me all the data there was to validate the identity of non-binary people and put me in a debate with Sargon, I don't think I'd have enough of a strong ground to stand on with that time's evidence to prove that non-binary people are valid in a scientific view. Just like now, there's not a lot of scientific evidence that would suggest that xenogenders are valid. And I think that this is one of those situations where I think anybody commenting on the issue, including myself, I talk about this type of thing completely theoretically speaking. I've never really.
I actually made a comment about that. I was like, Zan says this is like gatekeeping and we're not all educated, so we should be talking about it. And I was like, why are you reviewing it?
It feels like this is probably something that's. I would feel embarrassed if like 10 years from now it came out that there's just as much evidence to support xenogenders in our philosophical and psychological framework. Like if studies ended up coming out proving definitively that like validating people with gender identities is like overwhelmingly good for their mental health, like I'd feel really shitty if I took the super hard xenogenders are transphobic and bad stance if 10 years from now it turns out you actually validating their identities helps them a lot, and you know we were actually kind of doing something really mean. Because like very well-meaning and well-respected people have made this mistake, right? Shuanhead, I don't know how you feel about Shuanhead, but she's
always been good to me. I don't want
Shuanhead has apologized for it, but she did say and do some pretty NB-phobic stuff back in the day because at the time she had no reason to believe that she was in the wrong. Just like I feel like many people on your side of the xenogenders debate thing feel like you have no reason to believe that you're wrong because it feels very obvious, and I have no doubt that maybe it could be, but this just feels like something that maybe needs more time and evidence studied to it before we can like make that definitive statement.
I understand what you mean, and my question, right, is I feel like you could essentially say that for anything that isn't currently accepted, right? I don't want to follow people in my chat are screaming. They're like, ask him about incest and ask him about like pedophilia.
Morally neutral.
And I don't
morally neutral incest. Okay.
I don't want to like try. I'm not trying to be bad faith there, right? But I think the idea.
And I've seen all the classic Destiny debates.
Right.
That was how I got out of the alt-right rabbit hole.
So. Right. But the idea then is, right, how can we know that like what's the right like platform? Because like under your ideology or under like that like your statement, I think it'd be a pretty big slam dunk to be like, all right, what about transracialism? Like, what do you? Because if we say like, oh, it's not obvious now, but like maybe in the future, because there are people who like are like artificially darkening their skin and like getting implants.
Wait, Hans, can I show you an article really quick?
Go for it.
Before you use this example, I just really quickly want to show you an article because it's pretty dope. It's actually pretty cool.
Is it about? Is it people saying transracialism will never be valid, or is it like, okay, I'm like on the edge of my seat? What's this?
No, it's not necessarily relating to transracialism, but it is referring to, I think, the degree to which our understanding of race even is very, very strenuous and maybe a little bit more arbitrary than many people realize. Do you mind if I message this to you on Twitter DMs, because I have
Discord open?
I have Discord open
to
the thing. Yeah. So I'm just going to DM it to you here. So here's this article. I just want you to get a look at this article, and I just want to hear your reaction to the title and the thumbnail and everything to it, and then I'll add the additional context. So what do you think of that title?
Miriam Zinter was outside her house gardening when a comment by a neighbor brought her lovely day to a screeching halt. Quote, "Why do you have a Black Lives Matter sign on your front lawn when all those people do is kill each other?" End quote, her neighbor asked. "I'm black, but look white. Here are the horrible things white people feel safe to say around us." So, again, I'm like, it's a hilarious fucking banger meme.
Wait, Hans. I'm asking. Wait, do you think that she's black?
Like do you
think that woman's black?
I mean, it's entirely possible that like she's like interracial and just like happens like it's expressing like a certain way. Like
that's what it is. I did this with all my friends. I sent them the article and then added the extra image just because I wanted to see their reaction. But yeah, that's a picture of her biological parents and their wedding day.
Yeah.
Both her parents are mixed race, but very obviously black. But just like how if you have a grandparent who had blonde hair, but both your parents have brown hair, you could still have blonde hair anyway. She happened to end up with wavy hair and light skin, even though both her parents are black. And she goes on in that article to also talk about the type of racial discrimination that her family faced in the time where, when she was growing up and everything. And I just wanted to bring that up in particular because stories like that start to make me think maybe our conceptions of race really aren't as rigid and well-defined as we think they are. It makes me question that.
So ideologically, I can completely understand that. Practically, no. It's in the same way. I'm like, if I would say like, I go back and forth on like whether like gender should be abolished or whether we should just make people be as comfortable as possible, like with like more like broad like all encompassing genders, right? But also, one second, my chat's begging for me to put it in chat. All right, you fucking goblins, enjoy the racialism article, but specific. But the idea for that, oh fuck, I lost my place. What was I? Oh yeah, okay. So the idea is that like if we abolish race and we abolish like gender, right? Again, the two worthy things, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of abolishing, long term, sure. If we like act in that way now, a lot of problem, in the sense that if we say, oh hey, right now, there's a lot of say trans people who very much don't want to be misgendered, who very much like feel with their gender, and it's an important part of like how they feel, right? If how would you feel if I said, yo, I'm a gender abolitionist. I'm gonna fucking call anyone whatever fucking pronouns I want. Doesn't fucking matter. I don't believe in men or women. We're all just cubes. Like,
how do you know that people who identify with neopronouns and xenogenders, how do you know that they don't feel, a genuine amount of unhappiness and depression possibly when their identity isn't validated, but feel a feeling very similar to that of gender euphoria when they have their identity validated? If that was proven to be true, would you still find it to be a good thing to validate their identity, or?
At this moment in time, I would say no. And I'm fine biting that bullet in regards to making some people sad now. In the same way that if someone says like they are like the biggest
But isn't that gatekeeping?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's the definition of gatekeeping an identity. And I feel like every time that a group of people has gatekeeped an identity from a too radical extra identity or too radical whatever in the past in regards to the whole LGBT thing, it just feels like every single time up till this point, it's always been a disaster. It's always been a mistake. You've always, like, people who are the gatekeeper in these situations have always ended up being on the wrong side of history of everything. It just worries me that so many people are so quick to jump on board with something that resembles that exact same tendency all over again. It's like, are you sure you don't want to just like hold back a little bit, like maybe a year?
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't know if you know this. Like, the only reason I even like responded to the Vosh thing is because like because him and Iko like had that chat about me. I literally promised my chat. I think it was like the day after I had the debate with Leftist Al. Everyone's like, "Shut the fuck up, Hans. Stop talking about it." I'm like, "All right." In the interest of my chat and all the people who are extremely angry at me on Twitter, I'm gonna stop talking about xenogender stuff. And I tried not to talk about it, and then everyone else kept talking about it and kept adding me about it. And like everyone wanted to talk to me about it, including you. You DM'd me that one time. You're like, "Hey, you want to talk about it?" And so, and then I was like, "Just leave it alone, Hans. Leave it alone." Until I saw the Vosh thing, and I was like, "All right, I can't not respond to that just because of the size and scope of him as a creator." So that was the only reason I got back in this game to talk about this. I'm totally fine leaving it. Like, if we want to say that it's such an inconsequential issue and we should all just fucking stop talking about it, that's fine. But like, if you press me, like, I'm gonna try and give you like my reasoning for why I support those things. And again, like,
I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it in that it's an inconsequential issue. I mean, we are talking about people's identities. These are their lives, right? And they really do care about these things. If you talk to somebody who identifies with neopronouns or xenogender, this isn't just a niche political topic to them. To them, this is their lives and how they identify. Now, I don't like to make a habit out of speculating on the validity. Keep
speculating at me, Zan. Do it. Speculate harder. I said keep speculating.
No, I'm not talking about you at all. No, I don't make a habit out of speculating on the sincerity through which somebody identifies. That's just not something I make a habit out of, and I don't think anybody really should. And that I feel like that's the main problem here, because
people, right? We have to.
On Nazi, introduce me to somebody who's Nazi gender. No, I like. That's the thing, though. We can talk about theoretical situations. But what I'm
asking is, right? Like again, we're big brain thinkers, right? So like, what I'm asking is, like,
sure.
If you're just saying it doesn't exist, then like, what's to stop me from being like, I think everyone who says they're a cuttlefish or a helicopter, they're just fucking faking. I haven't, like, you ain't no helicopter. Like, when you say like, oh, this like gender is bad.
Yes, by this standard, you could also argue, why can't somebody just pretend to be a girl to get all the benefits of being a girl? It sounds like it's a fairly similar argument, right? That it's meant to be this. Are you implying it's meant to be grabbing attention? Why do you think people identify with xenogenders?
I actually did not say. This is actually a really fun quote from V. Again, I'm sorry for bringing him up, but in the September 19th thing, I have this clip pulled up if you want to see it. He explicitly says, "I think a lot of people use xenogenders just to feel special about their communities."
I don't care about what Vosh said. I'm not.
I know. I just but I don't think I would push that far. But what I'm saying is, it seems extremely arbitrary.
Can I tell the Vosh story so that, because it feels like
1 second. All right. But it's like, so the idea is, right, for the Nazi gender thing, it feels extremely arbitrary that we're not okay with that, because like, in terms of the xenogender people, right, the only xenogender person that I have met is a cuttlefish, right? Like, they say they're a cuttlefish. I have not met any other xenogenders. So does that, like, under your logic, that means like none of the other genders exist, or none of the other xenogenders exist. So like, if I'm trying to be consistent in terms of like a framework, I need to have a worldview, and like in your case, where like I can accept the cuttlefish gender, but I will reject the Nazi gender. And I honestly, like, like, I shit talk her a lot, but I honestly fucking respect Emma for saying this. She just bit the fucking bullet, and she said, "Oh yeah, fucking Nazi genders, that's fine." Like, because I feel like you can't draw an arbitrary line. Because like, where do we draw that arbitrary line of like what xenogenders are valid? Because that's also gatekeeping, right? Because like, like first we said cuttlefish and stars are all right, but like Nazis and helicopters are out. That feels weird, right? So I reject all of it, as opposed to like trying to draw an arbitrary line.
Are you asking me whether or not I would think Nazi gender would be valid, or are you asking me whether or not, if we knew that person was sincerely identifying that way and it genuinely made them feel better, if I would see that as valid?
Both. If you want to answer both questions. That's
sure.
fine.
So if I met somebody on the internet who said they identified with Nazi gender, practically speaking, most likely the way that conversation would go is I'd immediately assume that they are just a neo-Nazi troll and probably
You
block them
can't
and
know
move on with
that.
my
Why would
day.
you invalidate their identity? Even if they are a Nazi, that's their legitimate like feeling, right? Like,
Well, no, in this case, the scenario I'm describing that's made up is the one in which I would assume that it was a Nazi doing that, because it's usually
but what if they're
Nazis
a
that
trans
do
Nazi
things like
who's
that.
like or a non-binary Nazi who's so into being a Nazi that it's part of their gender?
Then you'd have to find if somebody comes to me that and says that their gender is part of being a Nazi, and there's some amount of mental distress that is caused to them by not having their gender validated, then I'm obviously going to validate their gender just like that of any trans person,
So
in
we'll
my
accept-
view, because I'm not in the business of gatekeeping this type of thing. But practically speaking, like actual
I
real
understand.
life
Well, I mean,
me
we're
in an
debate bros.
actual
This is
situation
hypothetical.
like this, where I'm going to assume, okay, this is a conservative just trolling online. But
Okay,
if
like,
I was
I'll be
able to
real,
truly
dude.
know, then you know.
I'll be real. I have not yet met a helicopter person, and so like, what's
Neither have I. I've
know,
only
I know,
ever met one xenogender identifying person in my life,
Right,
and that is Doe.
And so okay, so then my question, right, is it seems that we're like very easily, readily like available to say like, oh hey, dismiss the Nazi gender stuff. Like, what's to stop me from saying, oh hey, you're just like a bad faith like little shithead 14-year-old who's trying to like be like special online. Why should I like accept your validity as a helicopter, right? I feel like those arguments again, like I understand that I'm using the extreme like Nazi example, like to again just specifically to push the boundaries of this, but I legitimately can't contemplate a spot where it doesn't work, right? Where like because anything that you said about the Nazi gender, like oh they're being bad faith, I don't actually believe them, maybe they're trolling me. I'll be fucking real, dude. Like I think if someone unironically comes up to me and they're like I'm a Lakers fan gender, I'll be like I don't fucking believe you. Like
And I'd probably have that reaction too, because my immediate response would probably be, "Are you like a conservative?" I don't know. And I understand that the idea of there being genders that don't. Wait, Seanhead, have I ever called you a conservasexual? When did I say that? Because that's hilarious, and I must have been high when I said that because I don't remember it. And high me is pretty funny if that's the case.
What'd you say? Conservasexual?
Seanhead in chat said I called her conservasexual.
Okay, like Shu, is that wrong?
You never
though?
did, but
like,
you would.
You seem to like again, like your preferences are fine, but like you seem to like go for like the far right guys. Like I'll be real, Tucker Carlson looks like a bunch of mashed potatoes with like half a coconut on top, but you like simp for that guy all the fucking time.
I can't really say much if you've seen my Twitter timeline and anything I've said about any conservative politician who's a woman and over 30. Just don't look at my Twitter timeline in that one.
Oh, wait, what's on your Twitter timeline? 1 second.
All right, listen, I've got a thing for MILFs, all right? I'm very into MILFs, especially blonde MILFs. I think MTG is hot. All right, I think what's her name? The Bobert. What's her name? I think the Bobert lady is hot. I think yeah.
Okay, Bobert.
Sarah Palin. I've had a crush on Sarah Palin since I was like 10. All right.
Okay, but like young Sarah Palin, like that's the. Like,
hey, you ever seen that one video, Nailin' Palin? You seen that one?
I have not seen it. Can you link it to me?
Give me some. You seen it? Yeah, come on, give me some. Give me some.
Let me look
Give me some. You seen it? Yeah, come on, give me some.
Nailin' Palin.
Yeah, Nailin' Palin.
This isn't porn,
Don't bring
right?
it up
like,
on stream. It's porn. Yeah,
oh, fuck,
it's
dude,
real porn.
like,
Don't bring it up on stream.
Don't rickroll
It's
me
porn.
like that. What is this?
Wait, you should have known it was porn by
Bad
the title.
faith. That face Zan trying to nuke my stream. Like you.
He hasn't heard of Nailin' Palin. Oh no.
Okay. If I had to all right, being super sexist for a second, all right. Like, if I had to rank them, I think old Sarah Palin is more attractive, and then Lauren Boebert. MTG, I'm like her. Again, preferences. I just don't like her face. It just doesn't do it for me. All right. And
Boebert?
No, MTG.
Oh, yeah. MTG looks really creepy, but like everything else.
It reminds me of the Smiling Titan from Attack on Titan.
Yeah. I mean, she does. She would probably like. She is probably like insane, but you know. Hey, listen. If Seanhead gets away with it, so do I. Equal rights, equal lefts. Listen. If we can. All right. So I guess if we can get serious again, I guess my main at the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
Do you You mentioned that you said that if you knew beyond a reasonable doubt, you knew for certain that using somebody's preferred pronouns and validating their xenogender would increase their mental health and make them feel better, and it would help them just broadly. You said that you would still not respect that gender, you would still not respect those pronouns, because you believe that causing that little amount of harm to that one person will, in the end, cause a net negative amount of harm to the trans community, because you believe the thought process that validates not xenogender people is actually harmful to like trans people that are like non-binary or like binary trans.
Yes.
Right? That's your point.
Yeah,
I'm
comfortable biting that bullet, and I know that yes, that will make some people sad, and I understand that like that sounds like this is not a fun bullet to bite, but I'm willing to bite that bullet. So yeah, and like if I olive branch to you, right? If like I'm happy to be strung up in 10 years if I'm wrong, right? Like what's that meme from like that French Revolutionary? It's like my greatest hope is like the one day where I'll be hanged as a reactionary, right? Because like society has passed me by. That's totally fucking fine. It's just right now I currently haven't seen it. If there's like if there's like maybe people haven't linked me them, right? Like is there not like other studies about like xenogenders like maybe either like experiencing like extreme levels of sadness or oppression, or like as opposed to like say like just being mean to somebody on Twitter, right? Like because again, like I would say that not validating someone's xenogender is not transphobic in the same way that like is like misgendering, say, a trans man or like a trans woman or like a non-binary person who isn't like a xenogender. I don't think that's I don't think that's comparable. And I would say that certain people like again, V agrees with me on that one. That's not the same in terms. You might say it's still mean, but I don't think I don't think it qualifies as transphobic. That's like someone calling me dumb fuck instead of Hans.
Wait, so why do you? So what motivates you then? I'm curious. What motivates you then to argue against transphobia and like and bigotry and whatnot down the road? What motivates you in that sense? Like why? What annoys you when you see conservatives being transphobic? What annoys you? Actually about that?
Right. As far as I can tell, they're aggressively anti-science. They're aggressively anti, people being, again, documented, able to feel like a different gender. And again, if there's like a lot of studies that I just haven't seen about the xenogenders, maybe I'll turn my brain around it. I haven't seen them. But there seems like there's a good deal of evidence that both trans people are valid in both like a psychological way, in a societal way, in how we understand gender. Then yes. And if you're saying like why them but not xenogenders, then we go back to that conflict where I presently think that accepting the xenogender at this point in time invalidates the trans say binary and non-binary trans people because of the like the Blanchardism. And I have to bite that bullet because if I didn't, because if you can answer that question for me.
Well, what I'm curious about is how that physically happens, though. I'm curious how that sentiment of validating that identity culminates in the real world into harming trans people's like acceptance, because generally it seems like the communities that are accepting the identities of non-binary people are already the most progressive and absolutely most accepting communities, especially when it comes to trans people by far, right? So I don't really see these communities that are so radical in their acceptance of trans people that they're willing to accept and validate people who identify as things that you and I may see as being very far-fetched. I don't see those people somehow through that logic being turned transphobic by that. I guess you could make the argument that if that thought process gets taught to other people, then they could end up becoming transphobic from that. But like, I don't know how we're going to get from this is a thing that very left-wing pro-trans people are advocating for, and this thought process is going to end up being used to hurt trans people. I don't see how that jump is made.
Okay.
Like practically
so this
speaking.
is, I got you. So here's this. So this is entirely hypothetical, right? And this is hypothetical and based on a utilitarian thing. So the idea is, if I'm trying
wait, can I say one more thing first?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, sorry. It's just I want to get it out before. So I guess I feel as though the onus is on you to prove that it is causing more harm to validate their identity, practically speaking, than it is to not validate it, because we know 100% of the time if we don't validate, a xenogender or neopronoun user's identities, usually it's going to cause them some emotional distress to do so. I think that's a fairly reasonable statement. Most xenogender people want their identity to be validated. So you have to prove to me that it is worth that trade-off, that there is enough being harm caused, that it is worth taking the emotional dump for that person to not validate them. Like,
right.
You have to.
So what I would say for that is right now, I think we can both agree that the xenogender thing is like super online, super small. Mm-hmm. Like it's a couple like 1,000 people like at best on like Tumblr and on like the farthest parts of like lefty Twitter, right? There's not actually that many like xenogender people, right? And you're saying, oh hey, show me the material harm. Right now it doesn't exist because there's a small subsection of people on the internet. Although like maybe if you say like, oh, they're canceling somebody, maybe that's like a problem. But like it's not that big of a deal. But what I would ask then, right? This is Karlin Borisenko actually did this during her debate with Hunter Avalon. Have you seen that debate?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You remember at the end, like the really fucking stupid meme where she was like, "My religion is better than all the other religions because my religion hasn't been used for an atrocity yet." And it's like, all right, well, like Dr. Karlin, like give it some time. Like if I invent a religion that's like absolutely atrocious right now, eventually it could still cause problems. So saying that it hasn't caused any problems yet, I don't think is an argument to waive all of like in this case like philosophical concerns. And again, I can grant you, I can absolutely I'm gonna bite as many bullets as I need to for this. I completely agree with you that right now I can't like point to a stat like online, like say like IRL and say this is like the amount of trans acceptance has gone down, right? Mm-hmm. But again, so like we're just talking about feelings online in terms of like making people feel bad. I can give you personal stories of me talking to conservative coworkers and conservative family members, and I'm fucking fighting my ass off trying to get them to like accept like trans people, right? And I get them, and then they fucking like come back with the helicopter meme. Am I supposed to say, yeah, that's also valid? Like and again, like that's a utilitarian-based argument. No.
Sure.
But it's two-part, right? So like there's the initial part where I say like I can't square that circle of like of the woke Blanchardism. I feel like we're falling into that. But like in terms of practical utility, in terms of application, yes, I do think like accepting xenogenders does harm my ability to advocate for the rights of trans people to regular people. And again, like this is why people are calling me reactionary, because like again, down for trans rights, but like I'm not for xenogender, so I'm considered conservative online. But like IRL, super fucking left, right? And I fight with these people all the time. And so yes, like if we're talking about a utilitarian argument as a streamer, if I have to pick like arguments as like to make the world a better place, I will pick the one that's best suited for that thing. And yes, if it individually hurts like xenogender people, I can tell you right now, dude, I promise, if there's a xenogender person and I don't want to hurt them, I'll block every xenogender person on this platform. I will never engage with xenogender people ever fucking again. Make sure like to absolutely fucking minimize the chance of me ever doing that. And I can still have the benefits.
Does that not sound really, really, really yikes though, right? That like you are so averse to validating their identity that you would rather completely cut them off and never speak to them in order to not have them engage with you. So yeah, like this sounds to me like when someone says, well, how am I supposed to get to know somebody's new pronouns when they transition? I'm just not going to talk to them anymore, so I don't have to learn how to memorize their new pronouns. It's like, okay,
I just like categorically disagree in regards to like xenogender people being like valid in the same way as like binary or non-binary trans people are valid. Again, like I still can't square that circle for you. So we fundamentally think of them as different things. And,
sure. I'm curious what your thoughts are on. Oh wait, really quickly. Sorry.
No worries.
I guess a lot of people have been calling you a reactionary. I know you mentioned that Vosh also said that you've been a little bit more reactionary lately. But I think a huge part of that has to do with your argument sounds very, very similar to Blair White's arguments about non-binary people.
I have not heard them.
Have you like
I don't
Blair
watch
White's
a lot of
arguments
Blair
about
White.
non-binary people? Okay, sure. So Blair White is
what is the non-binary?
transmedialist.
I've been arguing this entire time not knowing what a non-binary. No, sorry, keep going.
Okay. So basically, Blair White is a trans medicalist. She believes that only binary trans people are valid, and only binary trans people with gender dysphoria are valid. Those are her standards. And then, of course,
she's just trans med. I'm not trans med.
And then, of course, she's also kind of a piece of shit. So she'll just misgender people or just like generally invalidate anybody she gets into drama with.
Like the "you look great, hun" stuff, right? I've seen Vosh react to a couple of her videos. Yeah, I know what you mean.
She does that kind of thing. And a huge talking point that she always would push is that her trans medicalist perspective validates gender, like trans people's gender identity, way better than the left-wing idea of gender being a social construct and non-binary people are valid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then, no, you're either born pink brain or blue brain. Some people are born with blue brains. Some people are born with pink brain but blue body or pink body, right? Like, sometimes the brains get, like, it's... That seems like to her an easier way to explain it to people. So she always argued, if you're validating non-binary people, you're just making it harder for us to validate real trans people. And I swear, if you want to go look at any video Blair has done on non-binary people, you'll be able to see the very obvious parallels. And I think that's what set a lot of people off about you when it comes to this whole xenogender debate. It feels like you're taking the Blair White style position in this regard.
I'm going to be mean for a second, okay? I find it extremely fucking tiring when instead of attacking my positions, people just say, you feel like someone else that I dislike. Because I can tell you all the reasons all the places where I disagree with Blair White. So saying, oh, Hans, you sound like to me, like, the only binary trans people are valid, because you're saying both binary and non-binary trans people are valid, but not xenogender people, because you also include xenogender people. I would very much appreciate you like attacking that, as opposed to saying you give me general vibes of people I disagree with, because I've gotten a lot of that and I find it absolutely infuriating, because I can't argue.
Sure, I didn't say that I give you vibes of people that I disagree with. I said that you give a lot of people that, and that seems to be why so many people are upset with you and are calling you a reactionary.
Well, those people are dumb then. Like, I don't know what to tell them. Like, I can give you all of my positions on like on trans people right now, and like where like Blair White's a dumb fuck. Like after hearing her position from you, but like so again, like if people get those vibes, like again, I can't argue against vibes. Like people can like have issues with my position, and
it's not that it's vibes. It's more so that you are making more or less the same argument. The argument that the validation of one group of people that's not quite as popular is going to... But you just told me that you would also exclude the Nazi. Like... I would exclude... In a realistic scenario, when I'm online and somebody says they identify as Nazi gender,
who are you to be the arbiter of realism, though? Like, again, we go back to the thing where, like, there's always going to be... No, hear me out. Here's what this sounds like to me, like, in its most basic, right? You're saying she validates some people, but not everybody. And you validate more people than her, but also not everybody. And then so I'm pointing at you and saying, you just have given me examples where you're validating some people, but not everybody. So I can make the same argument against you because you're not validating the Nazi people. So like what I'm saying then is, it's extremely frustrating because you're saying, oh, you don't validate everyone that I validate. I have reasons why I do those things. And I'm not saying you're being disingenuous. I'm saying it's frustrating when I get that from people who say, oh, you're just like Blair White. No, I'm not like Blair White. I can do a cover of one of her videos right now and say where she's fucking stupid, right? But like, I don't know how to argue against you sound like this because you also don't include everybody. Like that gives me Hitler drank water vibes. You know what I mean? Like what am I supposed to say to that?
Yeah, sure. So in regards to the Nazi gender person, it's not my concern whether or not they are acting in like let's say we brought this up originally with two different hypotheticals, right? There was the hypothetical where I'm on the internet, I'm scrolling through a forum, and somebody comes up to me on this forum in some way. You can't do that physically on a forum, but they say that they're Nazi gender, and they tell me that's how they identify and they want to be respected. Chances are that practical me, like going through that thread, I'm probably gonna be like, okay, this is clearly like a Nazi troll who's doing this. Is generally what they typically do in my experience. But if in a completely separate example, a completely separate scenario where I can now magically know actually the person on the other end of that thing isn't really like a Nazi troll, the person on the other end of this line is being genuine, then chances are I won't even say chances are, then without a doubt, I would probably respect their identity, mostly just because I really, really don't care about being the gatekeeper. I don't. Okay. There's a difference between what I would practically do in a situation like that and what I would do if I knew beyond a reasonable doubt that the person on the other end of this account wasn't just some random troll online, right?
And so what I would say to that is, like, I would look at that and I'd be like, fuck Nazis. I don't give a shit. If you are a Nazi, I'm not going to respect your Nazi gender. I think like it's more tied into ideology. And
Oh, wait, can I ask? Wait, an extra question. Wait,
go
is the
ahead.
Is the person who says they're Nazi gender like an actual like is the Nazi gender thing like their like they actually believe the Jews are bad, yada yada, or are they just saying they're Nazi gender and that's how they identify, but they aren't?
I'm
like,
sure
they don't
in the
believe the Jews
spectrum
are
of
evil.
Nazi gender, you can think either of those things. Like you can
Okay,
be,
sure.
you can like
So
just
I
you can
think
just love
in
the
this-
aesthetic. No,
in this
but
very-
Sam, but what I'm
maybe,
saying then is
yeah.
right. I'll tell them to fuck off, but like I can't give you or like if I tell them to fuck off, I can't. Sorry, if I don't tell them to fuck off, like I have to accept any and all genders, and I'm sure there's things that are even worse than Nazi gender, right? We go to the Nazi gender because that's like the easiest thing like to talk about in terms of like X bad, right? But what it's saying is like
Yeah.
I would say no Nazi gender, and you'd say you'd probably agree with me. You think it's bullshit. I would probably put the same level of like that to someone who said they're like legitimately say like a helicopter. I think the possibility of someone's gender identity being like in the spiritual form of a helicopter is about as fucking likely as someone being in the spiritual form of a Nazi. And this goes in like the thing where again like I can't find if I could find a line where it's like yo like stars, cuttlefish, you know, small furred animals, they all fucking fit, and I can like say no machines, no inanimate objects, no table gender, right?
Yeah.
But I can't find a spot that doesn't feel extremely fucking arbitrary. Because if we say, oh,
Sure.
like, are we saying like just mammals or like just say animals, like no inanimate objects? So like I can't find a place where to draw the line. So I either have to accept all of them or I have to like accept none of them. And so it feels like all or nothing to me. And if I can't find myself to accept Nazi gender, then I can't like I could use the same logic for the other genders.
So we've had to talk about the harms caused by the validation of xenogenders and neopronouns in a very abstract sense so far, especially. We've had to use a lot of analogies and a lot of hypotheticals because just in the real world, there's just not a lot of cases of people identifying as these really far-fetched or out there seeming, and I'll say seeming because I don't.
I would say all
be
xenogenders in
gatekeepy.
this case are far-fetched, just like by virtue of like how many of them there are, right? I think you could say that, like
well,
some are even less likely, right? We can say like there's one Nazi gender.
Well, I'm curious
like
what you think
5
of like
like
gender fluid people.
Oh, okay, gender fluid people. If you have if your internal preferences have you going back and forth like along the binary, then like, or even like sometimes like floating into the non-binary like realm, that feels fine. It feels like it's like a legitimate thing of your preferences. But again,
then at that point, now you're defending the idea of being able to just change your gender on a whim, which is what leftist Owl did, right?
No.
And now I know, yes, that most gender fluid people, obviously, there is some impetus to them.
There is something explicit about
emotionally.
gender fluid people that like make them like
But why can't this also be true for xenogender people?
So everyone's fluid. No, wait. Those are different things. Like we're talking about like the like
why
the
couldn't that be present?
I know, but what I'm saying is like this is like a categorically different thing. We're talking about
Welcome to capitalism, my
the
dude.
fluidity of someone whose explicit identity is that their gender flows back and forth normally between like man and woman, right? Like they normally
yeah, sure.
yeah, like that is like and having those internal preferences that drive that process is internally different than someone saying, "Yo, I feel helicopter today. I'm a helicopter. If you don't respect that, you're transphobic." That is markedly different because I feel like the internal preferences of the gender fluid person are explicitly coming out like in their expression. And if that gender fluid person says that like the part of their fluidity turns into a xenogender, I would tell that person to kick rocks for the xenogender part, and I would respect the other parts. And I would be consistent on that.
So in that case, if a xenogender person's internal preferences guide them towards identifying with a xenogender and using neopronouns, why would that be any less valid than a gender fluid person? A gender fluid person changes their identity. Their identity can morph and change over time in that regard, frequently, back and forth even, and that change can coincide with their increase in happiness, right? Because they enjoy identifying as a certain way, and that's what brings them happiness. And frankly, I don't know enough about gender fluid people and exactly how they identify to delve super far into it. But I did. People in chat sent me a couple of articles, and I've been looking over and taking a look at it every once in a while. And it does seem like there's a lot of evidence to support the validity of gender fluid people as well. But it seems like there's so many of these new identities that always come along. And as I mentioned before, when you come out of the gate with a discourse and your position is, nah, this group has gone too far. Nah, this group is too much. This group, I'm cool with the groups that came before. I'm cool with trans people, non-binary people, gender fluid people, gay people, and everything. But these xenogender people with the neo-pronouns, they're going way too far for me. Okay,
Absolutely. 100%
that tendency indicates to me a general bias in regards to when you encounter a new situation where you might take the position before really waiting to see whether or not it's smart to even take a position on that topic yet, or take such a strong position on the topic, right? Because the thing is, the onus isn't on me to validate xenogenders. The onus is on you to prove that people identifying that way are harming themselves or others, because that's their right. I mean, your right to swing your fist ends at their nose, right? So their right to identify a certain way ends at the nose of trans people. But if you can't prove that they're swinging at trans people's noses, so to say, in this wordplay I'm using here, then it doesn't really seem like there's a reason to question their identity or question their validity.
Again, this goes back to the religion hypothetical, where it's like if I have a religion, again, that's fucking atrocious. It says murder every person that isn't a giant white guy, right? And I just made that religion. It hasn't currently committed any atrocities. I don't have any evidence currently that it does bad things. But I can tell you that the application of that ideology might cause harm. And then that application goes into the woke Blanchardism that I keep coming back to as the square peg round hole that I can't fucking square, in regards to doing that. So I understand.
But couldn't you not make the same argument about something like trans women being dangerous in women's bathrooms? Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that couldn't end up being a harm to women, right? Validating trans people in that way could end up harming women.
That doesn't happen though. And then,
it could one day. What if it does happen?
And I have another question, right? I don't think we do this thing for anything else, right? Because I feel like in regards to say sexual liberation, right? We're all good with people fucking who they want to fuck, as long as things are consensual, right? No one's like, yo guys, there's a lot of weird sex stuff that people say no to right now, like bestiality, and we haven't accepted that yet, so why aren't we just more accepting? I feel like we're only doing this in regards to the gender, and we don't apply this to any other category. And so I feel like it's kind of superfluous to be like, yo, yes for gender being infinite, no for liberation of other concepts being infinite.
Okay.
If you want to think about that for a second, I have to fill up my water. Right? I'll be right back. I'll let you marinate for that for a second.
Okay. Why? I don't think the bestiality comparison's a very good one. I'll have to repeat that when he gets back. Actually, really quickly, I'm gonna go pee too because I've been holding it for a while and I don't like just sitting here and talking when the other person isn't here because it just doesn't feel fair to me. So I'm gonna go take a really quick piss. Okay, so just let Hans know if he gets back before I do. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. The double chair technique. It's he went to pee. Oh no, piss strat. I thank you, chat. The problem is identifying as something objectively incorrect. What I understand, and that Ernie, we can ask him when he gets back, but that goes into the idea of causing harm to somebody who isn't if you're not calling them what they want. Again, if I say, guys, I love All Might. All Might's my favorite superhero. I'm the #1 fan of All Might. And if someone says, no, Hans, you're not, that really hurts my feelings, right? I am under severe mental duress from that happening. Are people do they have to respect me as being that fan if I can point to demonstrable harm? Because that's what Xan's gonna point to, saying, hey, if you're mean to somebody, you're not affirming their xenogender on Twitter, you're causing demonstrable harm. I would say that doesn't qualify for the transphobia. Obama, respect me as a League player. I will never respect League players. I don't give a fuck, all right? If you team fight tactics all the way, okay? You fucking coming at me. You come at me with this bullshit, all right? Fuck League, all right? Yo, Destiny, you want to debate? I'll debate Destiny right fucking now, all right? fucking TFT versus League, you son of a bitch. I'll obliterate your ass. It's a much better fucking game. So.
I just released so much urine. My bladder feels so much better.
Okay.
Although I must confess that I've run out of water as well, and once my throat becomes too dry to speak anymore, then I'm afraid then you must win the debate by default because you've got more water than I do now.
No, if you want, you can go flip for water if you want. Like I got, let me see what time it is.
No, I'm all right. We've been talking for almost 2 hours, so we should probably start to like wrap things up in the next 20 minutes.
Gotta get
like
those clips for the channel. Don't want to have a 5-hour debate. You know, I see you.
Also, I woke up at 8 a.m. this morning and went to bed at midnight, so I do have to get to bed fairly early tonight.
Victory by endurance. Xan, blown the fuck. Like the scion of DGG beats the scion of VGG in combat. No, I'm just fucking with
Actually,
you.
I guess that's actually a good place. First, I have one. I guess I have one final thing that I want to say, and I guess this can be my final closing statement with the whole Xenogender thing, and it'll be my just general take, and hopefully there's not too much that's disagreeable in it. After everything we've worked through. Right? Because frankly, I am not very interested in burning bridges with anybody. I like having lots of friends, especially in the scene.
The more people that I have to burn. Bridge. No, but
I mean, listen. The more friends I have, the more friends I have in this scene, the much happier I am every day when I start stream. Okay, every friendship I've had to end doing this job has hit me emotionally in some way. I'll completely confess that, and I'd rather not that happen with our friendship, which is why I decided to. One of the first things I did when I responded to your video was say, if Hanz wants to talk about this, I'll talk to him because
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Small philosophy on like the thing of friendship, right? So I work in a pretty high octane like office environment. A lot of people like, going hard, trying to like be successful, right? Like the reason why I moved to Virginia is because I got promoted at my office and my company shipped me across the country to go to a different office space and like a new job. And I do a lot of this like office politics stuff at work, right? I'm not saying I love my work friends and stuff, right? But there are definitely some people that are just there to grind. And I'm here to make things a little bit better, and I'm here to have fun. And I'll be completely honest, you're not one of these people. You seem like a pretty genuine guy. But for a good amount of people that I've dealt with, I find them legitimately fake as fuck. And it really, really like grates on me. And after a bit, this is part of why I stopped doing panels. Is I was putting my best foot forward, being nice to everybody. Some of these people were getting on my fucking nerves, and I just want to be able to say like, you know what? Fuck you, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I think you're a piece of shit. Da 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 da. And if I have to burn bridges, do that. If I have irreconcilable differences with somebody, I gotta say it. I can't bottle that shit up. It drives me nuts. And that's why, and this is like partially why I appreciate Destiny, is because he'll go hard as fuck at me in public, but behind the scenes he's real as shit. Like he's the same behind the scenes, maybe a little bit like nicer as he is like in front of the camera. And so like for me, I value realness, even if it means like people being rude to me, than just like being generically nice. And yeah, like I completely understand what you mean. I have lost friendships. I have lost some friendships online that like matter to me, right? Like I said, Vosh was my fucking hero. It brings me no fucking joy to be like in the position we're at. Riverboat Jack, she was one of the nicest ladies I've ever met, right? She was like one of my best like good friends starting off streams. We did D&D together. We played TFT together. Great. I still feel bad about that bridge, right? But for me, it matters more that I'm internally consistent and I'm not just like flicking in money grub and trying to like keep things good, because I personally get more distress when I'm trying to be nice to people who I despise. And if I have to do that at work for fucking 8 hours a day, I'm not fucking doing it online when I'm like vibing and debating and gaming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess it feels like to a lot of people that have been saying it in my chat particularly, because you brought up Vosh a lot, it feels as though a big reason why you want to debate Vosh specifically is because he was your hero, as you said, right? Like there is probably some amount of a parasocial bond there. Okay. And it feels as though Vosh's perceived acts of disrespect towards you almost tarnish all those memories and that attachment that you would have to a creator that you enjoy of any period of time, but especially one that you would describe as your hero. I guess it feels like to a lot of people that
I'm just like I'm like a spiteful
parasocial
ex-girlfriend, right?
It,
Like,
well, no,
yeah.
it feels that way to a lot of people. Yeah,
Okay.
it looks a lot like that sometimes. And I'm not saying that is. I'm not trying to insult you. I want to be very clear here.
No,
I am trying to be honest,
appreciate
but
the
I don't want
realness.
to be
Most people
mean.
won't just come out and say
Yeah.
it. So let me respond to that
'cause,
like immediately,
yeah.
right? So yeah, like did it really hurt my feelings when Vosh like said that I was drunk on that stream when I wasn't, and then when I asked for an apology, he kind of threw it in my face. Yeah, I was like, that might be a small thing for some people. That really fucking hurt my feelings. All right, like like that's no bueno. And so I was like, all right, fuck this. And then so like, did I escalate? Absolutely. But like me like disagreeing with Vosh and wanting to fight with Vosh. I mean, maybe there's some like residual stuff that I can't feel. It's unconscious, right? But my biggest fucking issue is really is that like a streamer who's 100 times my fucking size, 100 times my platform, said a bunch of shit about me that I disagree with, and then refused to have a conversation about it. And then after he knew that I wanted to have a conversation about it, he ran away and then posted the video anyway. So that's I don't care if it's Vosh. If Destiny did this, I'd be just as fucking pissed off. If some streamer with almost 400 fucking thousand subs, like, and I'm a 4.5K Andy, right? If some motherfucker who's 100 times my size posts some shit about me and they don't want to have a conversation about it, then yeah, I'm be really fucking pissed. And like, maybe is it worse because Vosh is doing it and I know what Vosh is, and like Vosh has been nice to me in the past. Maybe that's like a bit more salt in the wound because I expect more from him and I'm consistently disappointed. But like, I don't think, like, I would be mad regardless. Like, maybe I'm like 0.5% more mad because it's Vosh, but I think I'm 100% justified even if it wasn't Vosh. And if people want to say that like I'm angry because like we're not like friends anymore, I mean, like, I'm sorry, like I can't change my past of like being on good terms with him. Like, does this mean like anytime I get in a fight with somebody who's bigger than me and we don't talk anymore, that I can't talk about them without being obsessed? Yeah, like I'm keeping it 100. Like, I'll be as straight as possible about like I'm not actually straight, but like I'm keeping it like straight and narrow on this one. Yeah, like, does it bother me? And like, does I feel like he's treating me so uncharitably when I know that he's capable of not doing that? That absolutely fucking bothers the shit out of me. So
Welcome to
yeah, like,
capitalism.
and I mentioned him a lot, partially because I know there's a lot of crossover from your community and his. And again, part of this conversation, if I'm being as like open as possible, is I want Vosh to be able to come and fucking talk about this himself, because I want to let this discourse die. But I'd really like to have Vosh either say, "Yo, Hanz isn't actually reactionary," or I want him to be more honest about what his actual positions are. And yeah, I definitely pepper that heavy at the beginning of this conversation. And I'm sorry if that made you feel like a proxy. I didn't mean to make you feel that way, but I'll be real. Like, the real person I want to talk to about this is him, because I feel like he's the one who impugned my character, called me a reactionary, and I'm not fucking comfortable with that. And I feel really mad.
I'll admit it's a little not underwhelming. It's a little bit sad for me that a lot of people in the political scene, I guess mostly because, as I mentioned, the internet has been writing a lot of fan fiction about me and Vosh for a while now, have kind of grown this perception that like I was inspired by Vosh, similar to how I guess how you described it, you were. And I guess I'll give a little background to that, because that was one of the big things that I particularly had an issue with on Twitter, because once you hear something enough, even if it's not true, it just starts to bother you.
It makes you mad, right? It's like when people accuse me of being on roids. I totally get it, but keep going.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think you're on roids, because I've seen dudes who are on roids.
They're so much bigger than me. Like, I feel like people who accuse me, they just don't go to the gym. Like, I'm big. There are guys there that are fucking huge. I'm like, yeah.
The dudes that I know that are on roids are, well, actually, so I don't personally know. I know one other person in my life who does bodybuilding, and he does TRT. That's his steroids. He doesn't do like I think that's more of a newer thing. I think people do. It's a little bit. I don't know exactly how it works, but basically that's how it goes. And it is like, you're buff, but the people who take the steroids look inhuman. A lot, like people who take anything from TRT to like the more hardcore shit that's known for making your ball sack shrink. Yeah. They look like inhuman vasculitis, I think the term is, just covered in bulging veins that look like they're gonna pop.
Right? It looks fucking
respect,
awesome.
but not for me.
It's fucked. I agree. Like, I like being big. I don't want to be veiny. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I guess the once you hear enough
were
of
talking
something,
about being accused of being like a Vosh clone or a Vosh.
yeah, and I guess and it even feels like in this conversation, as you mentioned, who you really want to be talking to is Vosh. So it feels like for me, like you're like this is a proxy for you. And I guess I mean I try to make my own content. I try to do my own thing. I try to be my own man out here on the.
I mean,
on
dude,
the net.
like you're beating me by what, like times 20? Like you're doing just fine. You know what I mean? Like I think at this point you could say you're a successful YouTuber. Like I wouldn't.
Oh, sure. It's not that. It's more so that, like, if somebody wants to talk to me about an issue, I prefer that they have an issue with me specifically rather than, like, maybe this wasn't your intention, but the way you said it, it made me feel as though, like, well, I can't debate Vosh about it, but I can get Xan, and, that's close enough,
well,
you know?
That's not what I meant. It was more like you seemed open to it, and he was not. So I was like, all right, I can talk to Xan. I know Xan, like, is like reasonably tight with Vosh. Maybe, like, after this conversation with Xan, I can talk to Vosh. And it's not saying that, like, you're not worthy of a conversation. You absolutely are, right? I think that'd be, like, extremely fucking disrespectful to say that you're not worthy of a conversation.
Sure.
But
I mean, my feelings aren't too hurt by it.
But, like, my beef isn't with you. You know what I mean? Like, because I legitimately got fucking beef with V about this. Like, people say, like, I'm either unhinged or stuff. Like, this is partially why, like, I got, like, fucking 20 people all want to, like, debate me on xenogender stuff, right? And I think you did a pretty good job, like, debating the position. But, like, what I would say is, like, every single one of them has the same fucking thing. I don't think I'm obligated to talk to any, like, random person, content creator or not, about xenogenders. But if someone invokes my fucking name and, like, I want to talk to them about it, like, you probably should fucking talk to me. Because, like, if you shoot first, if you say something about me and I ask, I think that's a bit different than someone saying, oh, hey, Hans, debate me on xenogenders. And I'm like, I've never mentioned you. I haven't talked about you. I haven't done any of this, right? I think those are kind of like axiomatically different things in regards to like what I would say, like responsibility to have that conversation, right? I don't think I'm obligated to debate any random person on xenogenders. But I do think Vosh is considerably more obligated that, hey, he spent 50 minutes talking about me. I deserved like some kind of response.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can't speak to what Vosh will do. I mean, he is his own man after all, and I'm pretty sure. I don't even know if I think he's streaming right now, so I don't even know if he's aware of us having this conversation at the moment. But I mean, if down the road, I'm sure there'll be a point where if he's interested, then there'll be a debate, or maybe there won't. I don't know the drama that happened between you. I didn't really follow it all that much. I just wasn't around for it. I've been way too busy lately. I haven't really been watching any political content creators or streamers for a while now. But do you actually like?
No, I got you. It's hard, right? Because like when we stream, I virtually only do like political content stuff like when I'm on stream now. I just don't have time otherwise. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. It's because then it makes it feel like your not work time is work. At least for me. Because for you, do you? I'm actually curious. Do you consider streaming to be like? Do you feel the burnout of streaming like it's your job? Because I do hardcore. But I didn't when it was just my hobby.
I think it's honestly, maybe if it was my job, I'd be more stressed about it. There have been times when I say like when I feel kind of burnt out about political content, right? And maybe I'll just like say I'll play games for a bit, right? Like that was a big thing, right? Like by the time like around the time of like my assault, right? I was in a new city. I was really overworked with work stuff. And then that happened to me and I was like, fuck, I just can't handle streaming right now. I can't handle doing any kind of political content, right? And like this has sort of happened a little bit before. And I'll be like, all right, fuck it. I'm not doing politics. I'm going to like, take a 90% viewer hit and I'm going to pluck and play teamfight tactics with my friends on stream because I still want to stream. And I think, and this is why personally, I don't really hold it against people for trying to clout chase and shit like that. Because I'll be real, right? I got friends who are streamers who are like my size-ish that are trying to make it as like, their actual job, right? People want to fucking do content. Like if I talk about like, people, why are 400 fucking people watching us like on my end, right? It's because this is like fucking 4 times like the size of my normal good streams, right? So it's like, why is this sort of thing happening? It's happening because people like fighting, people like drama,
Yeah.
So if someone's like a drama frog, I'm not going to hold it against them because especially for like smaller streamers and you're trying to make it, like, fuck it, dude. Get your fucking content. I'm not mad at you that you're not doing, like, fucking research streams every fucking day. That shit, no one fucking watches that shit, right? So, I can't really hold it against someone for wanting to do drama. I wish when people did it, they were more upfront about just having those conversations. Because, like, honestly, I wish I could have had even, like, it was a private conversation. I wish I could have talked with V about this, like, either, like, on stream or even in private. That would have been fucking enough for me. We could have quashed this. But now it's, like, again, I'm, like, walking around. I'm like, all right. He doesn't want to talk about this. His stream still feels like I've like, I'm in the wrong. Da 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 da. Like there's no resolution. There's just like this simmering thing where nothing gets like going. But like I said, like I'm rambling a bit. But yeah, drama people, I don't care. Make the content, dude. Like streaming is a hard job, and do what makes you happy. Do what makes you that money. And but I get the burnout. Like I said, I work about 8 hours a day, right? And then I hit the gym, and then I do streaming. And I think I stream probably about between 15 and 20 hours a week. So I stream some more than some like regular streamers, you know what I mean? So it's like I actually I grind pretty hard, but I absolutely know what you mean in terms of burnout. And there's some days when I just like I want to do fucking fun streams. Like fuck this. Like, yeah, I can how do you get around the burnout? Because I've like most of the time I'll like either take a break or I'll play games, or I'll take the night off and get like I can get like fucked up or like play some games with my friends. Like what do you do like when you don't, because it hurts your analytics, right? Because like the thing is like when you like play games, like it hurts your numbers, and like for streamers that like for it's your job, that's a big deal for you, right? I think that was like that like way back in the day, that's why Vosh only ever did political content, is because like he knew if he did games, it would like tank his numbers, and that hurts like growth and like availability and stuff. And I wasn't invoking him like to attack him. I was just using him as the
that's
example.
Just that in that instance is very obvious. You're just bringing up a streamer and how they do things. No, so I guess today is my literal first stream back from a 3-day break I took. Just to help with burnout, because at least for me, once a thing is my job, even if I really enjoy doing that thing, there's going to be a point where there's going to be days where it's like, I don't really feel like doing this thing that I normally really like to do, but I have to do it anyway because it's how I pay my bills.
Right.
And once that starts to happen, that's when I think the burnout really comes about. And really all you can do is say, nope, I'm taking 3 days off from streaming, 3 or 4 days, however much time you think you need. And it's not going to, like, just take those 3 days off. They're predetermined, pre-planned. Do some stuff if you want to in that time, or do whatever you want that you think will just give you a nice vacation in that time. And I find that after 3 days, at least in my case with this stream, I was pretty excited to go live, because like, yeah, it's been a few days. I miss my chat. I'm excited to come back. So that's what I did. And then to help prevent burnout, getting a good schedule of like, so what I want to start doing is they're going to be set political streams and set gaming streams. That's how I'm going to do it, right? And then some gaming streams, maybe it'll be like what I've started doing a lot, and your video, what that video came from was I want to start watching debates on stream, because I don't really watch debates off stream anymore, because I'm always debating on stream. And I'm never going to watch any of these debates off stream. It's not going to happen. So the only reason I'm ever going to end up being able to watch these things is if I watch them on stream and their content. So I'm starting to watch a lot of like debates that are prominent that happen in the community. That's why I watched yours while playing Minecraft. So I think I'll do that for some gaming streams. And then of course there's more. But yeah, that's how I've been handling it. But I guess, do you mind if I tell a little bit of a story that happened to me a little earlier on in my streaming career?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to tell you the story of my biggest ever cancellation. Would you argue that this has been your biggest cancellation?
No, I'm actually growing. I would say my cancellation.
No, cancellation doesn't necessarily mean that it's destroying your career. It just means that are you getting the more shit than you think you've ever gotten? So far from this drama.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, yeah, that's more so what I mean when I say canceled. Cancel doesn't mean your career is over. It just means people are mad at you online. So I got canceled. I'd say this was actually my biggest cancellation in regards to how many people saw it and how much it affected me, mostly because the other thing, which was the sex cult drama, got debunked, so it wasn't really that big a deal in the long run. But this is the one that got me in trouble.
That was so weird. Like, where did that come from? Like, with the sex cult stuff? Like, I just... Like, legitimately...
Hey, if you want to go on a wild ride, there's a YouTube video about it on my channel, and you can watch it on stream. I show screenshots of some really spicy things. It's good content. You might just want to give it a watch on stream. It's good content. But,
It's just... Yeah, sorry, keep going. Back to your cancellation, sorry.
So, months and months and months ago, about mid-July last year, I was doing a Minecraft stream, and we were watching a new PhilosophyTube video. This is before PhilosophyTube had come out as trans. And
I remember this. Keep going.
And then PhilosophyTube, I think, had like come out with a tweet that got her canceled. And around that time, I made a joke like, honestly, how funny would it be if it turned out that PhilosophyTube was trans and comes out as trans, and this whole time, like everyone feels super embarrassed for canceling her, I'll say it, because at the time, you know,
I got
canceling her, right? Like, how shitty would everybody feel if that's what ended up happening? And then she came out as trans, and I admit I did a little bit of a cringe, and
So you
I was
did the,
like,
I knew it.
"Oh fuck, I knew it, yeah!"
Oh,
and then
no,
and then
you
I got
got-
canceled,
oh,
and then I got canceled, and then I got canceled for it, and then my brain at the time, upon getting canceled, was like, "Wait, why am I in trouble for being right?" And I got really angry and spiteful, and people were going. There were tons of people offering valid criticism to me, but there was an army of people for every one person that was giving me valid criticism, or should I say, actually, for every 3 people that were giving me valid criticism, there was one deranged person, like severely deranged person, who would come along accusing me of being like a chaser, or saying that I want to hurt trans people, or that I'm a grifter, just random out of this world shit that isn't even close to a valid criticism of what I did in that case. In that case, the criticism of me ought to be, you shouldn't speculate on people's gender identity, and certainly not turn it into a celebration about yourself because you were right in a joke you made a while. Like, that is the valid criticism, right? That's it right there. I just said it, right? And I internalized that in hindsight, but at the time, those people that came at me that were saying admittedly unhinged things ended up making me so spiteful of anyone pushing against me or criticizing me that I ended up becoming blind to the valid criticisms. And I'm not saying it's exactly what's happening to you, but I think it's something that Twitter can cause that I think a lot of streamers have fallen prey to. And I think that's what a lot of people feel like has happened with you. It feels as though you've gotten shit for invalid reasons, but now you are expanding that group of people. You are putting people who are acting in good faith under that umbrella. I think that's how a lot of people might feel.
I got you. And so what I would say for that, right, is in regards to like the mass, like people meme, like I blocked like hundreds of people during like this discourse, right? Like hundreds. And but
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, the rule I normally follow when I do this sort of stuff online is like if someone's either quote tweeting me or they're saying something like particularly nasty, that like, and they don't follow me, I don't follow them, I don't know who they are, if they're a rando, just block, right? And I made a joke about this during like the initial day when I had like the initial like helicopter poll, right? Where like I blocked 200 people, I didn't lose any followers because they were all like people that like didn't follow me in the first place. They were people like that were mad from other communities that came at me, and I'm fine with that. But I would say, am I more aggressive in regards to criticism? Absolutely. I think that it's almost like you. I think you almost kind of have to be as I've gotten bigger, right? Because again, like I've gotten where I'm at. Like this has been like less than a year in regards to me like actually streaming on Twitch, right? So I've been growing into this like sort of thing, and there's a lot more criticism, right? And so and a lot of it is the same, and it's dog shit. And like eventually I'll be like, all right, fuck this. So normally what I do when I have problems, right, or when I feel like maybe I'm like wrong on this, I have people that I can talk to who will push back on me in ways that I find that are helpful. Like, I don't know if you know him. His name is Dario, like on Twitter, right? He and I had like this literal like 50 tweet like conversation about the Xenogender stuff today. And he's a really good faith guy. And so normally when
we're talking about Dario Naharis from Game of Thrones, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, but and so I have people like that. There, every now and then, I'll see a random comment, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I have gotten more aggressive, which I, again, to be fair, I have gotten more aggressive. I think I've just been somewhat turned off by people like being like super shitty to me, so I default to aggro very quickly, right? It's more like, and I get that, but I find it extremely, I guess, how I behaved before. That was still me, but that was like me not having like had to deal with any like real like pushback, right? I was like the golden child of Twitch for like what fucking like 6 months, right?
I think you were probably the most universally liked person on political side of Twitch. For a good while there.
And part of that, I feel like, I'll be honest, I feel like a lot of that in hindsight, I would just like, I'm a pretty jovial guy, right? Like regardless. I do get heated in debates. If you saw some of my old debates against like conservatives, I went just as hard as I've like gone in my recent ones. But I think like people weren't like never expected me to turn that against like the other lefties, right? And I got really bent out of shape about like the Demon Mama debate, and then like the Hassan's like responsibility debate, right? And so I feel like a lot of it, and this is gonna sound like This might sound shitty, but I'll be real. I feel like a lot of people like me because I'm a pretty friendly, jovial guy, and I was inoffensive. Because like, because like it's like the idea of when you're starting on Twitch, right? You're like, I'm gonna be nice to everybody. I'm gonna be friendly with everybody. Like da 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 da, right? And for me, and I was like, that worked pretty well. But then, you start picking some fights because like people either say stuff you disagree with and you can't reconcile that, or you fight with some people, or you're mean to somebody and their friends like are mean to you. Like I can't like I remember the initial oh god, this is gonna sound super like stupid, right? But I remember during the initial Demon Mama debate, right? Like this was way back when. I distinctly remember everyone was covering, right? That was like the talk of the town. Everyone was like, "Oh God, this is fucking crazy." That shit was like school discourse for 2 weeks, and I remember Vosh never covered it for like 2 weeks, and when he did cover it, that was probably like the softest criticisms I've ever fucking seen of Demon Mama during the debate. I'm not even saying like people who thought I lost. It was just like Hanz is right, but he was too mean, and he peppered in that initial thing of me being, oh, Hanz is like starting to like turn into like a DGG orbiter. And for that sort of stuff, I don't know how I can disagree with people without their friends coming to their defense. And again, like if you want to defend your friends, that's fine. But like I don't know how I can disagree with say like Demon Mama, or honest to God, I don't know how I could like say fucking disagree with like who's a really strong simp for somebody else. Sorry, is that like a he wants to say that like
it depends. It's like if you with Twitch it seems like it's a context thing, but if you're saying it ironically like just as a word for like to defend, then I don't think they're gonna
so like I think we all got like like our sacred cows, right, where it's like, oh, like if you fuck with this person, like I don't like you anymore, right? It's like for me, one of my people for that's Rose Wrist, right? I was like, I love Rose Wrist. He's a nice kid. Like he's super good at like debate. He always cites his fucking sources. He's like a generally like intelligent, like kind like guy, right? When someone's fucking like rude to Rose Wrist, I'm like, this motherfucker is bad faith as fuck. I can't handle this level of shit. And so I understand that maybe some people have like longer relationships, and the thing is, I don't know if I can get through Twitch without like pissing some people off. And this is like a personal failing of mine. I'm really bad at repairing bridges in relationships. I don't
know if it's even possible to do. I've never even tried. It takes so much for me to burn a bridge, and I'll burn bridges, but it takes a lot. Usually, it's the other person who does it, because usually, like you can see here, like.
Burn, Zan, burn.
Listen. There's been people in the chat who I know disagree with you, who I know aren't on good standing with you, that I am friends with, and yet, despite that, even with them being in the chat, I'm going to. That's not going to affect the way that I go about certain things.
And I'm really happy for you. I personally can't do that.
You sure? I guess that's
it's
my way of dealing with things.
But I don't even if we disagree, right? Like I have I'm good friends with say counterpoints and in some more.
I like him.
Yeah, so more conservative people, right? Like my big issue, most of my things from maybe it's because where I was raised, grew up on a farm in the Midwest. When I think of my friendships, I'm like, all right, I'm willing to fight for my friends. I'm willing to be real with my friends, but if I'm too real with my friends, I'll apologize, especially in private. And so when someone goes really hard at me and I think they're my buddy, or if I go really hard at somebody, I'll almost always DM them afterwards and be like, hey, are you all right? Are we still good? And so maybe that's not how some people operate, but for me, apologies are an important part of my sort of relationships or my friendships. Because if someone goes hard at me, I want them to say the next day, I'm like, all right, dude, and because I do that to a lot of people, right? Maybe it's because I'm really mean to people, but normally, if I do something I think that's fucked up to my friends, I want to apologize. And I feel like a lot of people in the online space refuse to do that, and that really kind of it makes it feel like people are kind of fake and they're only friends with you, on the surface. Because again, I'm an emotional guy, right? I think that's pretty well demonstrated at this point. If something bothers me, I'll let you know. And if you don't try and rectify it or nothing, I'll get madder, and I'll have that hate in my heart, as as Jesse Lee Peterson will say, until the day I fucking die. I don't fucking forget that sort of stuff. If someone wants to apologize, we'll be good. I've had friends that I've burnt bridges with, and they'll fucking text me out of the blue, and they're like, yo, dude, hope you're doing okay. I'll be in town for this weekend. Do you want to hang out, maybe catch up, see how you're doing? I fucking love that shit. That's totally fine. But if someone never apologizes, I don't like friends who don't apologize. That's like maybe like a personal thing for me. Because like if someone doesn't apologize to me when something I think is fucked up, or I think I'm owed an apology, and again, no one's owed an apology, but just realize if you don't apologize when someone feels like they want one and you won't even talk about it, then maybe like you might piss them off. And that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of things. And maybe it's because like my sort of like social style doesn't really fit on Twitch in that way. But yeah, and I'll burn bridges when I gotta burn them. But like I don't like, contrary to popular belief, I don't like burning them. I just feel like there's a point where I will just like, I don't care. Like, but sorry, go ahead. I'm rambling.
Of course, there's a threshold for everybody. I'm sure if somebody in the politics scene was to fuck me over hard enough, then sure, I would burn a bridge with them, though I don't typically have many cases where I think I give people enough to make me angry enough. Like, I don't feel like I give most people in the political scene enough to be angry at me about to try to start shit with me in a way where a bridge would burn, at least insofar as friendships go, right? Just generally speaking, right? I mean, that's just the way I typically go about things, right?
I'm very bad at not doubling down. When I get in a fight with somebody and they tell me like, "Yo, you should."
So
back
am I.
down. Yeah, when someone tells me to back down, I'm like, "Motherfucker, I will take this to the ends of the earth. I don't give a shit."
That's what happened to me. That's what happened to me with that trauma.
When you know you're right, all right? Fucking quoting my favorite Marvel superhero, all right? Fucking Captain America. When you know you're right and the rest of the world is wrong, you plant yourself like a tree by the river of truth and you don't fucking move, all right?
Ironically, it's pretty close to a Thanos quote as well.
It's like, hey, all right, both of them have some goals. I disagree, but like you can't deny Thanos had the Sigma grind set, okay? Like
Thanos was a Sigma male. All right, I actually want to thank somebody who earlier brought this question up in my chat. I've saved it for now because we kind of got off that exact topic, and I don't want to go back to it and linger on it for too long.
No, but I remember what you're talking about. Just start right where you left off. Like you said, you got judged, you thought you were right, you doubled down on it, people were getting really mad. Continue about the philosophy too.
Oh, the story. Yeah. So I started to double down because even though I was getting a lot of valid criticism during that drama with Abigail Thorne, I felt as though most of the criticism, or I felt like the bad criticism in my mind was outweighing the actual valid good faith criticism, and it became easy to meld that whole group together, and it took me like days to realize what the fuck am I doing. The people I'm banning from my chat who are subbed that have an issue with what I'm saying, maybe I'm going a little bit too far. These aren't randos on Twitter that don't even follow me that are just making shit up about me because they don't like me. That was the point where I was like, all right, maybe I've gone too far. Maybe there's some valid criticism there. And from that I learned, and I've gotten a lot less defensive in regards to criticism. In fact, I actively seek it out. But I guess the question I wanted to bring us back to was, so you believe that obviously that identifying as a xenogender is hurting the trans community. If somebody who validates that identity, it is hurting the trans community. So I guess the question is, do you think people who identify with xenogenders and those that defend their identity, do you think they're trying to fuck up the trans community?
No.
Because the way, because I'll say the way that you've gone.
I remember that comment.
Sure,
comment.
okay.
I said so true. I think that's what you're referring to. I already saw it. Again, I said Chow was moving fast. That was just a bald-faced lie. I didn't remember the fucking context of it, and I was covering my ass. I agree with the special snowflake thing. I disagree with the trans trees and stuff, and I disagree with the male, female, non-binary. I felt like kind of weird trans med sort of stuff. Man, woman, okay. Non-binary. So to clarify for those things. So I don't, like, that's obviously too strong a statement. I'm going to walk that shit back. Because, like, yeah, I don't think they're trans traitors. I think they're wrong. But, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's, like, some sort of sneaky devious being like, I should be a helicopter and I should fuck up trans rights for a decade. No, like, that, no, I don't think that's bullshit. And so, yeah.
I don't, it just feels, because when it comes to a movement like this, a situation like for example, I guess we can use something that's as that you would probably say is just as frivolous in regards to identity. Feet lovers, okay? I'm not a big fan of feet lovers, okay? I'm just not into feet, and frankly, I'm kind of grossed out by people who are into it because I don't understand it. And frankly, things that I don't understand are bad. Okay, that's my thought process, of course. No, but I'm obviously off put by people who are into foot fetishes, and I kind of cringe a little bit when I see them talk about it or get all into it, and I get pissed off when Quentin Tarantino forces foot fetish scenes into good movies. But I guess if I'm gonna go really hard against a group of people, right? I like to know that they're doing something bad, like, and that includes, and I'm somebody who genuinely believes in like the outcome of someone's actions defining the morality like of the action. However, when it comes to defining the morality of the person, I think their intent does matter to a degree, right? So for example, if someone intends to cross the street when there's a green light and they're not trying to hit someone and they run somebody over, they've done something bad. The action of running someone over is bad. They probably deserve some punishment or reprimanding, but I don't think that makes them a horrible person, because when we morally judge a person, I think their intent matters. And I think that our moral judgments of somebody, at least for me, how hard I go on somebody is usually correlates directly with how harmful that I think their actions are, and also more so with how malicious I think they are, I guess, right? Like if I think someone's acting maliciously, I'm going to go after them a lot harder than somebody who I think is just a useful idiot. And it feels like the way you've gone after the xenogender identifying people, to me, feels like more like you think they are actively trying to cause harm than I guess you think they're unknowingly causing harm, and that frustrates you. I think
they're wrong. And if you want to say, I think this is entirely a fair criticism. Optically, right? I was aggro as fuck in that debate with Al, and you know why now, right? But like, and I'm normally also aggro in all my debates, right? Like even like way back when, like even I like people like they think I'm like a nice panel host, but like when I actually debate, I go hard, right? And so yeah, I was being super aggressive, and I was talking to a guy that, again, I'm not, no shame, I fucking hate his guts. Okay, I think he's a piece of fucking shit. Like, I literally asked him like, yo, dude, if I block you, can you leave me the fuck alone? He said no. So I'm like, all right, guys, just get clarifying for everybody. If you're bothering left us out and he blocks you, you're under no obligation to follow that. But yeah, so like, was I too aggressive during that conversation? Absolutely. But again, like this, but we've had like essentially the similar conversation. I had this conversation with Dario on Twitter earlier today, like, and it's a lot more chill. And so like maybe like if you're saying like my attitude's like more aggressive, I can't regulate like my personality to being like, all right, I only 70% like disagree with this person, so I'm gonna be nice, Hans, for this debate. Normally, like my debate is just like I just go hard out the gate, and like I never stop going hard. And like maybe I could try and change myself, like to debate less aggressively.
No, I'm not trying to ask you to change who you are. I've got no right to do that.
But like, well, so I guess like maybe I can try and be better, like less antagonistic out of the gate. But again, I'll be real. Once someone starts coming at me, like all the fucking gloves are off. Like I don't give a shit at that point. Like it's like it's the same thing. If someone punches me in the face, and like this is like, and they're like a small guy, and I throw that fucker across the room, and people are like, Hans, you were so much bigger than that guy. I was like, he fucking came at me, okay? Like I'm not gonna
listen. Ironically enough, I just had this take yesterday off stream, but I'll admit it. I think it's okay to be bigger and stronger than the person you go up against. If someone throws hands at you and they're smaller than you, I think it's okay to go against them, with the force of however you'd go against anybody else who called you out. I think that's okay. Obviously within reason, right? Like, for example, there was a video a while ago. There was a video. Oh, sorry, what?
No, I was like, no, absolute victory. Grind them to dust and salt the earth. We will Carthage. No, but sorry, keep going.
Impale them on the spikes. No, but I guess for me, usually when it comes to doing any type of debate like this, I usually gauge like how harmful I think at some balance between their intent and the outcomes of their actions usually determines how I engage with them, and of course how good faith I think they are usually, right? Will also determine like the way through which I engage with them, and I guess do you feel as though the people identifying with xenogenders cause so much harm that is worth to go out of your way to denounce their identity? Do you think that they are causing enough harm presently, or realistically will cause enough harm identifying that way and with people validating that identity, that there's a practical outcome or even a intent that validates a moral condemnation of these people that would justify going super hard against them.
I know what you mean. I don't think it should be like a fucking 3-week discourse. And again, I was happy to end it after like day 3 or whatever, right? Like I didn't want to keep this going. Other people are keeping this going by posting YouTube videos. No shame, but like, you know, like Chud and like other people, right? They're still posting videos about
to be fair, that's actually a fault on my end because that video got uploaded way too late. Had it gone up earlier, then we could have gotten this all over with sooner.
I'm just fucking with you, but like, but so okay, full disclosure, dude. 99% of the shit we talk about on Twitch, none of it's worthy of having like actual fucking discourse about, all right? Like we literally talked about school, like whether we should mandate school for fucking 2.5 weeks, all right? Like we're not exactly hitting like hard topics.
None of our opinions on these issues matter at the end of the day besides who in the audience agrees with who most, right? Like a lot of it at the end of the day with a discussion like that, I feel is mostly about, you know, almost entirely about the fanfare, like the whole school discourse. Listen, I'm going to be honest, I tend to side more with your side of things in the school discourse from what I saw of it. I didn't see much. But,
Burning Bridge, Demon Mama, I don't, in shambles.
Listen,
right, keep going.
I'm friends. I imagine I probably disagree with Demon Mama on plenty of other things, but I mean, it's one of those. It's a situation where I feel like a lot of people in this space can get really performative, and not in the sense that they're pretending to be someone they're not, but in the sense where they will exaggerate the degree to which they disagree with someone, or exaggerate the degree to which they feel offended by somebody. Maybe not even without realizing it. I feel like I get performatively offended by things on acts, and I'm not that performative, but I feel like I get performatively offended or react performatively to things that, let's be real, like if I see a Ben Shapiro clip and Ben Shapiro says something stupid and I'm sitting at my computer and I'm not streaming, my reaction's going to be, that's fucking stupid. But if I'm streaming, it's going to be, oh my God, I can't believe he'd say something this fucking stupid. Because of course, we're entertainers, right? Yeah. And I guess degree, I think it's fine. But I think some people, do you feel like people get way too performative when it comes to the disagreements that are comparatively quite small in the scene?
What I would say is, I don't care about how aggressive you get in terms of your disagreement, like performatively disagreeing. I get my issue with performativeness, right? And this is coming from I don't think I'm performative. I am like legitimately like this like level of energy, like pretty much my entire life, right? But like people consider me performative. Like, I'm like, if I'm using my performativity to like ignore aspects of debate and like try not to like even like communicate, I'd say that's a problem with performativity. But like everything else, that's just style. I'll be honest, because like some people are more performative, some people are less performative, and like it feels weird if we're like, hey, if you don't actually disagree that much, maybe you shouldn't like be like, you know, as animated. But like we're asking fish not to swim. Like we're saying, hey, like you're an entertainer, maybe entertain people less because you don't actually disagree. Like if I'm fucking debating because again, big lefty here, right? I fucking love Medicare for all.
Can I interrupt for a second? Because did you see me crack my neck in the face that I made when I did it?
No, I didn't. You want to do it again?
I just cracked my neck and I felt it in my fingertips, in my left hand. It's never happened to me before, and I just felt like I needed to interrupt to let you know because it was a very bizarre feeling, and it made me feel like I just got hit by a cattle prod. Really weird. Sorry, you go ahead. Sorry.
No, I got you, right? But like,
no, do it again.
I'll be real, right? Like if I'm debating somebody like on say like Medicare for all versus public option, maybe it'll get more like technical in the weeds, right? Like if I'm debating like say like Destiny on that, right? Like that's like maybe it's a bit more technical, but we still might yell at each other. But like if I'm arguing with say like someone who's arguing for like a public option, they're like a fucking idiot. Yeah, I'll start screaming. I don't give a fuck. Like we don't really disagree that much. I'm gonna go hard anyway, right? I remember literally having a screaming match with like I think Dr. Heem like way back in the day about like whether or not we should like tax like celebrities more, and I was like, this is like the most basic like weird champ like fucking topic, and we were fucking going at it, my dude. So it's like I just I think it's kind of I think it's unreasonable to assume that entertainers because that's what we are, right? Like won't entertain. And I don't think it's reasonable to say, oh, hey, maybe be a little bit nicer because you don't disagree as much. And I would agree with you that like that's probably a good idea, like long term instead of the terms like lefty unity. Because like, hey, you know, you versus me versus like you know Vosh, like versus Destiny, we probably all agree like normatively I'm probably like, you know, like 90+% of issues, right? And that's pretty like if we're all in the same fucking party, right? We're all, I would say, like, we're all Democrats, right? Like in the regards to like American, like we're all left to center, like right? And that's fine. But a lot of people, at least on Twitch, there's a lot of lefties, and some people, whenever you see like a big topic that you can disagree with someone, everyone jumps because that's the controversy, right? Because like, what, we're all gonna like sit around and jerk ourselves off about how great Medicare for all is for the fucking 15th time? No. Someone's like, all right, is there a divergent opinion that I can argue about that I have strong opinions on? It's fucking go time, son. Like, so I think we're asking edutainers. Sorry, I know that's trademarked. To not edutain, sorry, not to entertain, and that feels like it's going against the platform. Because I've done research streams, and that shit gets 0 views. But like, really, I'll dunk on chatters for a second. Yo, chatters, you're all subhuman fucks, okay? You all want to think that you're politically engaged and that you're smart, but you don't want to watch me do like a 4-hour research stream. You just want me to use that 4-hour research stream for like 4 or 5 dunks during a debate, so you can feel smart because you agree with me. All right? I fucking see you. Zan won't say it because he doesn't want to burn any bridges to chat. I'll burn every fucking chat.
I'll say it, but no, I'll say it.
Chatters,
I'll say
dude.
it.
Like, no. Why are you here? For the drama.
Viewers will all the time say, like, no, you should do a segment on this niche political topic. It's super important, very dry and boring, and they'll act super hyped for it, but not actually come out and watch it when it happens.
And they'll leave,
and they'll leave when it's yeah. It's a real thing. No, he's right. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm calling everybody out in chat who's denying it right now. You're all lying. You guys, you guys came into this debate because you knew there was going to be like, or at least you thought there was going to be like spiciness and screaming, and that's why you came in here. And if I was doing like a dry research stream right now, 99% of you would not be here, okay? Because it's not entertaining.
They'll go somewhere else. Dude, I remember this one time I was doing, I was playing a game stream. And, like, people kept coming into my chat and being like, yo, Hans, cover this drama. And I was like, no, I'm playing games right now. And I look up, and because then they would just leave. And I look at, like, you know, like the little bar on the left-hand side of the screen. And I look at, like, there's 6 other political streamers. Every single one of them was covering the drama. So it's like, if you're not covering drama, someone else is going to cover that drama. You know what I mean? So, like, and chatters, again, like, I think there's some loyalty in communities. Like, I'm sure you've experienced this a bit. And, like, I have some of like my core chatters that are always there, right? But like a lot of people, they'll like you, but if you're not covering something they care about, they're just gonna fuck off, and that's totally fine. Like we're not like allowed anyone, we're not entitled to any one chatter's like view and time. But like again, it's frustrating when the chat says, "Oh, we want to be more politically engaged," and like da. It's like, no, you fucking don't. You want us to fucking scream at each other and make the people that you dislike look really fucking stupid. All right, we all know why you're here, and like. And this is okay. So this is like I want to get your last like actual question. I want your take on this. So this is why personally I put a lot of responsibility on streamers, both in regards to like how they like curate their community and like what they do in terms of activism, right? Like so like mad props to Vosh for in terms of like his charity streams and stuff, right? That was really fucking cool. And because a lot of like Twitch centers around the streamers and the personalities. And so we're like thought leaders, and that goes kind of against like the leftist idea of like, oh hey, like, you know, no one person is the revolution, like like, you know, like a expanded pool of effort, we're all in this together. And so it feels kind of like individualist, but I'll be fucking real, like if a streamer wants something to get done in their chat, like whether it's like, you know, like activism or a charity stream or something like that, it's on the streamer to take initiative. Like their chat isn't really gonna do it to them, right? The chat isn't gonna like rise up and like do like a canvassing event. Like, but the streamer goes, "Hey guys, I got a fucking spot. I got a place. We're gonna be here. I'm setting this up. I'll pay for your shit. You fucking get your asses there." Like, it's so much easier for the streamer to take initiative than it is for like the nebulous chat, like somehow like, you know, rise up out of the aether, which is why I said I hold streamers maybe more accountable than like other people in regards to like, you know, doing activism or doing good things in their community or encouraging things, because I think it all comes from the streamer, right? And I said this, and I know people think it's performative, but like, yeah, if I see a fucking asshole in my community bothering other people, I will yeet them from all my fucking communities. I don't give a shit. I'll cross-platform ban. I don't give a fuck if you're like a 5-person sub. One person was a fucking asshole to other people, and they're like, "Why did you ban me? I've like given you money for 3 months." I'm like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I have rules, and if you don't follow those rules, you're gone. So it's like, so
yeah,
what do
they're
you,
ruining the experience for other people in the chat. I mean, at that point, that's why, like, my general rule is when it comes to ban. Obviously, if it's like a random Nazi troll account, like making it their 56th alt or whatever to spam in the chat, that's another story. But if it's a random person coming in and, you know, at least nowadays, before when I started, as I've started to get, as I mentioned before, I used to not be like this with that whole Abigail Thorne drama. As I've gotten a little bit more mature, I like to think that I've gotten better at, like, if someone in chat says something that I disagree with, I'm usually like, do you want to come on stream and talk about it? If I'm like in the mood for a debate, be like, maybe we can work it out. Because I have a feeling that most of the time I feel like a 5-minute conversation with a lot of people could end whatever drama's going on. If it could just be through voice and not through text or whatever,
well,
or
that,
like
that's why
one-sided.
like a lot of times, like I'm always, again, like real talk with everyone who's listening. I know there might be some people who hate me in chat. Yo, if we beef, all right, I'm down. We don't have to talk about it on stream. Like I literally yelled at people. Like I saw something like in like the Destiny subreddit where someone was like, after the like fight that like there was like that like the 6 seconds of like drama for me and Dylan, and someone was like, Dylan needs to be taken to task, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Not everything needs to be a public fucking therapy session. Like you people are allowed to work out shit behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, again, parasocial Andy's in chat, like people can resolve stuff off screen, like unironically, you know what I mean? Like we're not, like you don't have to see every kind of development that happens. And like that might be unsatisfying, but I would say that's honestly a better way of looking at things. And like if someone has a problem with me, I'm happy to fucking talk off stream. Like I'm a pretty fucking busy guy and no one's really offered, right? I've literally offered people, like, I'm like, hey, we have a fucking problem. Can we have a chat about this? Like off stream is fine. We don't have to do it in front of like fucking, 50 people. We can just do it, you and me. And I still get people saying no to that. I'm like, because then at that point, I feel like people really don't want to resolve disagreements like in a functional way. We want to fight. And I'm like, if we're gonna fight, let's fucking fight. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah. I guess I actually was talking to somebody off stream about this very recently, and I think it's something a lot of people don't realize if they don't do it themselves. But when you're a streamer, this is about as close as you can get as like a random normal person to being the star of a reality show.
So
Only
true.
all of Twitch and all of the streaming sphere is a big reality show, and the viewers are more or less trying to, influence how that goes. And at the end of the day, even if you play a character on stream, most streamers, any streamer who's making any amount of content and has any amount of an audience, is broadcasting an amount of their life online that just isn't healthy. And I think a significant amount of the time, and I've noticed this in chat right now, or through our entire conversation, my chat's been begging me to go hard on you. And I've said from the beginning of this, and I made it clear even before this all happened, that that's not what's going to happen. This is going to be a conversation. And I think there is a lot of like pressure from audiences for creators to immediately go throat to throat at each other instead of do that whole, let's resolve this in private, or let's just have a chill convo about it. Let's actually just chill, and let's not make it a big show for everybody, right? And I guess that's, I think, a big part of a lot of this. I'm not saying that's why you do anything you've done, but I think that's a problem just with streaming in general, where like the audience almost feels entitled to every aspect of your life, and they almost feel entitled, like they're holding the remote control to make you decide what you do with your life. Like they think you're the main character of a Telltale game, and them in chat, what they want, like whatever most of them want, is what makes your decisions for you. Like you're picking dialogue options.
I know what you mean. It's like, and I've had to like fight with them sometimes. Like I have like rules in chat where I'm like, all right guys,